Welcome to Literary License Podcast retrospective of Batman, the animated series, and the new adventures of Batman and Robin, where we explore 4 episodes from the classic 90s television show.
Hello, welcome to Literary License Podcast, and it's Batman Week. We'll be covering 4 episodes of Batman the Anime series. Before we get started, let's find out who's with us. We got Sean Stefan with us. Hello, Sean.
Hello, everybody.
We got Vicky Ray with us. Vicky, hello, Vicky.
Hey, guys.
And I'm your host, Keith Shago. And before we get started, let's find out what we've been up to, starting with you, Sean. What have you been up to since last time we spoke to you?
Well, I've been, since the last time, I've been working a lot, and right now, my source of relaxation has kind of been rocked. Most people know that I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and the world of pro wrestling is kind of going through a little bit of a transition period.
I saw that.
Which is a nice way of putting it, rather than talk about everything that happened. I'll just say this, Vince McMahon is gone, and that makes me a very happy man.
What the hell happened in a nutshell? I'm so confused.
The short version, without getting into the legal documents that would probably get us thrown off the air in most respectable outlets.
Probably.
He met a woman by the name of Janelle Grant, who was down on her luck, putting her family through a nursing home. Picked her up, started a relationship with her, brought her into the company, put her on the company payroll, had a sexual relationship with her, started using, pimping her out to other employees, used her as a bargaining chip to hire a certain former UFC champion back to the promotion. And through process of elimination, that narrows it down to only one individual, Brock Lesnar. He's not named in the lawsuit, but everyone has kind of deduced it's him. And also as well had graphic he sexually assaulted and raped this girl. There's now a federal sex trafficking suit and investigation.
Oh, there goes the wrestling world.
Well, here's the thing. This all happened before he sold. This all happened. The company has recently been purchased. Before he sold. Now, here's the interesting thing. Pro wrestling is more interesting than an episode of Succession, if you are a fan of the business and kind of know what's going on. The short version, Stephanie McMahon was being groomed to be the successor to Vince. She is his daughter. She is married to the head of creative, Paul Triple H Levesque, the wrestler Triple H, formerly who's now retired. He's now taking an executive role, and he's the head of creative. Vince is kind of was the final say in the creative world. Vince is a crazy old billionaire who is very lost in his ways and was doing things against the fans, just like, fuck you, I know what you want better than I do, and was doing a lot of things to harm his business. When all this stuff started to come out, he was kind of forced into retirement. Now, all the details when gone out, but basically it came out that he was using corporate funds to pay off these NDAs to the tune of like $12.5 million. So he was forced out of his company. He still maintained the majority shares, but he was forced out of the CEO role. Fast forward a year, everybody is happy. The morale is up. The ratings are up. The revenue is up. Things are going good. All of a sudden, Vince forces his way back into the company and says, "No, I'm selling the company, and we're going to sell it to Ari Emanuel, Mark Shapiro, and Endeavor. We're going to merge it with the UFC and create this new company called TKO. I'm going to maintain. I'm going to have a seat on the board, and I'm going to maintain an executive chair.
How did I not know any of this was going on?
At that point, a lot of executives, including Stephanie, resigned from the company. So basically, he forced her back out of the company. She kind of a lot of people think that all this stuff was linked together.
Sometimes, you know.
Well, it's a carny business.
The problem basically is when they forced him out of the company, he still had a high percentage of shares. That's the problem right there. When they forced him out of the company or made him resign, they should have legally asked him to to give back his shares
Yes,
or bought back his shares at a
that would
competitive
have been the decent thing.
From the get-go, Ari Emanuel admitted in legal documents and financial filings that they saw Vince as a risk. As soon as they because of this and because of future litigation. So they knew damn well something was coming. They may not know to what extent, but they knew something was coming. Eventually, fast forward 1 year, Vince is now out of the company because all the explicit details have since come out. The company has been named in the suit. The gentleman that has been named alongside him, John Laurinaitis, one of his lieutenants, has since been exiled from the company. He's retired, and he's now like, no, Vince was using me as his own sexual action figure for his own demented will. He's flipping on him and saying like, no, we knew about this stuff. We covered up a rape. We did all this stuff. And so all this shit is starting to crumble. Meanwhile, at the same time, they're bringing in The Rock to sit on the board of directors. They've given The Rock,
like anybody cares what he has to say after a while.
No, but
that's the thing.
But you don't understand. It's a bit like, well, we discussed.
The Rock don't have the stamina and the pull that he uses.
No. You gotta look at this. You gotta look at it this way. I'll go back to an episode of Ted. Basically, when he said, "I saw the movie Alive," and who would you eat first? Would it be Tom Hanks or Diane Keaton? And the thing is, like, what are they doing on the plane? Well, what we need to do, they're great big Hollywood actors, and because they need to have this. They need to give the show of Hollywood to get the public support on board. So The Rock will be used as a figurehead to get the public support back on board.
But the public support ain't coming for The Rock because everybody hates his guts right now because of Hawaii and Oprah. That is not going to be a very good move completely.
He's the highest. He's the highest profile wrestling for a mass market, a mass world market. Everyone knows who The Rock is.
I will say this right now. So as far as the Rock goes, he right now is on the downturn of his career. He talked all that shit about Vin Diesel and had to be weaseled back way into the franchise. Black Adam, the fate of the future of the DC universe did not change. He is not the face of the DC universe. James Gunn is now in charge, who is friends with Vin Diesel, so his power play to move into Warner Brothers failed. Wrestling has always been a fallback position for him that he could always go back to. It's literally in his blood. And for years, they've been kind of casually teasing in the background the biggest current star in wrestling, Rock's cousin, Roman Reigns, and having a match with The Rock where The Rock would pass the torch the same way Hogan did to him 20 years ago. Get back in, so that's what they've been building to. There's been one problem with that. There's a gentleman by the name of Cody Rhodes, the son of the plumber, Dusty Rhodes. The American dream. And Cody Rhodes for the last 2 years has been the face of WWE. He left the company to form AEW, the competing company. He came back to the promotion with one goal in mind: to win the championship that his father never could. That's his personal story that he wants to fulfill. He went. He had an opportunity.
You did your homework, Sean.
I'm a wrestling fan. I'm a wrestling fan, and honestly,
you're a walking encyclopedia.
This story is fascinating to me because it's the way that the media, because Ari Emanuel and Mark Shapiro are now involved with WWE, it's manipulating the entertainment media as well to go around it. So it's now becoming an entertainment story. The Rock comes back to wrestling thinking that he's going to be the big superstar, and the fans are rejecting him because, no, we've been watching Cody for the last 2 years, and we want to see Cody, the guy that we've invested our time and money in, be the top face guy. We don't care about you getting some fucking, Nepo fame run with your cousin. And so they're like, casual fans are like, yeah, we want to see The Rock. But the ones that have invested their time, they're like, no, fuck you, Rock. Rocky sucks. And they're taking it back to 1996. It's fucking hilarious to watch because
it's so dramatic too.
It is.
I'm trying to wonder how much of this is real and how much of this is theater.
I think that they realized, oh shit, maybe we fucked up. Let's go with it, which would never happen under Vince. So that's the reason why I'm like, to tie it all back to the original thing.
Right.
That's why it's fun. That's why it's fun to be a wrestling fan again, because I think that they got the crazy old man out of there, and they got people who actually know what they're doing in terms of using the media.
Did you think it was kind of taking a nosedive though? It was boring me a little bit. Wasn't it starting to get a little like,
Well, the wrestling was, and that's the reason why they have this competing brand that Warner Brothers is working with, AEW, where they're not drawing the same numbers, and they're actually on a little bit of a downturn.
They won't for a while.
But they got the money, they got the capital, they do have star power, and they have the platform in TNT and TBS that if they do re-sign with them, they could still be a player in the game and at least hang in there and give people a chance to work. And they formed out of the fact that the business was getting stale. As soon as Vince started losing his power and losing his stroke, that's when the business started getting interesting again. So it's really turning around, and it's becoming a fascinating time. But there's this dark cloud hanging over it with what else is going to be uncovered because of all this dark shit about Vince that was discovered. And that's just one person when we know he's signed 5 NDAs and 4 of them may not be valid anymore. So it's one of those things. What else is going to come out? Who knew? How bad is the snowball going to tumble down the hill? How big is it going to get before it smashes into the building and just wrecks the whole thing? So it is.
To be honest, though, it just sounds like a normal, I hate to say it, a normal person rags the riches story.
Yeah.
And then the come down of them, whether you're looking at Howard Hughes or Weinstein or all the other ones, it all seems to be fitting in that.
They've been working on a Netflix documentary for him for over 3 years, and at this point, it has more endings than Return of the King. It's so ridiculous. Fuck! Every time they think of that, fuck! We gotta go back again. Fuck! So yeah, it probably has at least 6 endings.
I understand the Rock to Cody, the Cody thing. I mean, Cody is like it's the all-American, rags the riches, gathering it back his father's thing. I mean, basically, it is basically Rocky 6.
Yeah.
The whole storyline is where the Rock, though he was very, very popular, and whether you agree with stuff that he said or not, he does have a high profile within normal people who have known nothing about wrestling.
Exactly.
But for wrestling fans, it's almost like The Rock turned his back for a Hollywood career. So him coming back is him taking a step down. Mm-hmm. So that's where that comedy.
To be perfectly honest, where the business is and where Rock's career is, Rock needs WWE more than WWE needs The Rock. And I think the fans
But I think WWE were thinking basically is that he is such a high profile and known around the world.
Yes.
The thing is,
it's a smart corporate move. It's a smart corporate move.
Well, another thing is wrestling is only an American sport. If you go to other places around the world, they know about it, but they don't really indulge. It's a bit like American baseball. They know about American baseball, but they're not indulged.
Japan, Germany, and the UK, it seems like are the only other real hot spots. Japan especially. But yeah, it's mainly.
If you look at The Rock, as far as him being known, he's known in every single country around the world, only because of his career, whether looking at the Jumanji films or whatnot.
Yeah. Mexico, of course.
I can understand why they did that, but they should probably also look at the market at which they're working with that situation there.
That's the problem with today's companies. They do not know their consumer anymore.
I think that's it. I think they just figured, hey, we'll plug in The Rock and everyone will love it.
Boycotting going on.
Well, I think the reason is that a lot of times they're running before they learn to walk, and the thing is,
or they're just playing
stupid. Well, The Rock. So we bring The Rock on board. This way, it will make our brand global.
Yeah.
Not realizing that. Probably not really, because it's rare that. Oh, well, let's put it this way. How many people became a huge boxing fan who are Mickey Rourke fans? Not a lot.
Not a lot. No. God,
no. So they need to look at that. Now, the only problem with the new WWE that I can see is with the new blood coming in. What made the WWE work is basically it was a very gangster type of stuff that was going on behind the scenes, and it was very rough and ready. There's this dirtiness going on behind it. What we might get now is more of a sanitized, clean version of it, which could actually affect it as well. It will be interesting to see how that goes, because sometimes when new blood comes in, they sanitize it and make it so safe for the world that sometimes the world gets bored and turns their back. So that could happen as well.
Possibly. The only thing I will say about that is they are owned by the same company that owns UFC now, and they seem to let Dana White do whatever the hell he wants, say whatever the hell he wants. They let his fighters say whatever the hell they want, and
I think you have to. I think you have to do that because I mean, the thing about wrestling anyway. I was never a huge. I never watched wrestling.
Yeah.
When I was growing up, I wasn't a huge fan, but my half brothers were really into it. Just simple point that you go over and visit and they try to like slam dunk you, like, because they're really into it. And from what on Saturdays it used to be on, and if I was home and they were watching it, I watched bits and pieces of it. But it's like court, whether it's OJ Simpson, Carter, like that, but it's all show.
Yes.
It's all the show. And sometimes you need that conflicting darkness and to do the side so that way you have like the good person and the horrible person, and everyone boos the horrible person and everyone's yay for the person, and sometimes it's important to have that horrible person say really nasty, horrible, stupid stuff so you can hate them even more to help get into the fringe of the fight situation.
Yeah, you need the dichotomy between the good and evil, and the stories are usually the most fun. So I love it, but it feels like we're entering a special time that hasn't been around in maybe 20 years or so. So or 25 years. I look forward to it. So
I'm looking forward to see what happens there. Actually,
I am too.
And
but other than that, yeah.
In 3 years' time, there'll be an Oscar-winning movie.
You never know. Honestly, the Vince McMahon biopic, whenever it comes out, will be a fascinating one to watch. So,
yeah.
Other than that,
and everything is factored that allegedly.
Yeah,
it's all allegedly at the moment.
It is allegedly, but I will say this: when I read the person who's representing the accuser, she is a former federal judge. And she included text messages in the lawsuit. So if it's one of those things like, if you are bringing that hard proof in your indictment, you got something. And even if 90% of the allegations are false, those text messages are so damning, he would be shaken out of any respectable organization. There's no way around it. It's just I control who you fuck, I think was the one quote that I will say that I'm like, yeah. But like I said, there's a
lot of drugs involved as well. It sounds like there's a drug money somewhere hiding behind all this as well.
Possibly. Vince, I mean, he's just a crazy billionaire with, there's a lot of bones there. And you could go, I mean, there's been allegations over the years. One recently came out about a former employee who became a Playboy model who spurred his advances. The problem is he's vindictive on his show. He writes his problems into the show. So there's clips that people are pulling out, like, this is what allegedly happened after this person spurred his advances. He gets like very violently close to the woman, throwing his coffee cup at her and breaking the girl down to tears. I'm like, this is just a model who's hired because the woman, the other guy that's accused, said, bring me women that I like. He thumbed through lingerie books to find talent, not the wrestling independent circus, not fitness models, not people who have athletic training that could possibly do it. No, we're going to find, lingerie models and just bring them in, and maybe they'll wrestle, maybe they won't. It doesn't matter. We're just going to have them stripped down into their skivvies anay. And that was what wrestling was back in those days.
It doesn't really surprise me because not recently, but earlier last year, I watched the Bill Cosby documentary, which was actually filmed and produced by his son, which still shows Bill Cosby as a bad person. But everything that he was doing, he had it in a stand-up. It's on his records. Drugging and stuff like, and and the thing is that I think there is some truth that basically, if you just throw it out there like you don't care, no one's going to think what you're saying is real.
That's the thing. I mean, like, he just keeps saying it to show the world who you are. And he did it in such a way that, oh, it's just such an over the top character. He's just so flamboyant, all that. In real life, everyone here is always a compulsive neat freak. He fires people who sneeze. You know, he doesn't respect sneezing because it shows weakness. You know, it's just that crazy billionaire eccentricities that you hear. But that's what we've always heard about him as wrestling fans. And it turns out he's like a real freak, and
a lot worse than the rumors.
A lot worse than the rumors. Yeah. So, other than that, yeah, I think that's kind of been consuming everything because I just can't keep my eyes off this whole story. I'm just like, if I'm part of me thinks, is this a distraction play, bringing in The Rock, doing all this stuff to keep your mind off of the Vince thing, or how long is this Vince thing going to last? But yeah.
Well, I understand
it's a fascinating time.
I understand the Rock situation. I understand the ideology about it because I said before, I'm not a huge wrestling fan, but I know who the Rock is. You know what I mean?
Everyone does. Everyone does.
So I can understand that. But if you're a wrestling fan, it's kind of a bit like, bringing Taylor Swift into the, female soccer team. You know what I mean? Because it's like, she may never had it, but just because she's known for this doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to flock to her to see this. As we've seen with many other celebrities who have tried their hands at other stuff, and their public doesn't necessarily travel over with them.
Yeah, that's the one thing.
Yeah. I think you have to be a really, sucker hard fan for anyone, and let's face it, people who are that really into whatever celebrity that is, they're very far in between. There's not a lot of people who will follow a celebrity wherever they go,
Yeah. It is weird, though, watching all the celebrity love of wrestling and all the people who have begun to dabble in it. Award winners, the guy from played Richard Jewell, Paul Walter Hauser, I think that's his name. He has openly talked about he wants to play Ric Flair's #1 guy, Arn Anderson, in a movie. He's in the Cobra Kai show. He's wrestling his first match. When he won the Golden Globe, he shouted out his opponent in his award speech. And he's done numerous things in the wrestling world, dabbling. So it's going to get to the point where wrestling will become his main job and acting will become his moonlighting gig. And it's just people are having. I don't know if it was the wrestler that brought respectability to to Hollywood, made people realize, oh shit, these guys are actually, there's more to it than just the stuff that they're doing in Vince McMahon. There's actual storytelling. The one I always look at it, the one scene in Glow. I forget what it was, like one of the first episodes. I love Glow so much. But when the soap opera actress goes to the match for the first time, and it dawns on her, holy shit, I'm watching a soap opera, and she immediately gets into it. I'm like, yeah, that's it. I mean, if you just look past the guys in underwear and the women in the skivvies beating each other up and getting all angry and arguing with the fans, and you actually get down to the nitty gritty, it's a soap opera, one that you can get invested in if you wanted to, and take your mind off the real world. That's the way I always look at it.
A lot of soap opera going on behind the scenes as well now.
And to some people, that's the more interesting part of it. So.
How did the Zac Efron movie do? Did that do quite well?
Yeah, it didn't do nearly as well as I thought. Everyone who's seen it loves it. People say it's got a lot of heart. His relationship with the brothers is kind of the major strong point that drags it through. But yeah, it just didn't do that well.
Okay. Well, that's something to be looking forward to. So keep our eye on. All eyes are on the wrestling world. Which, to be honest, is probably a lot better than having what's going on politically around the world at the moment. So at least this one's more interesting.
I tell people all the time, I watch it because I don't like to think about what's going on, and I don't have to. I could just get invested in this. It's a meaningless storyline. Maybe have some laughs. Maybe get angry, and then I move on with my life.
Yeah. So. Well, and the good thing about stories like this is that you can come invested in it and watch it, but in no way that's going to touch your life. The politics part of it sometimes comes too close to your own life. That becomes a bit too uncomfortable. So
exactly.
At least it's like real life entertainment. So.
Indeed.
Well, it looks like we've lost Vicky and her Wi-Fi. So
yeah, that's not good.
So But so what I've been up to recently is I watched Ted, the new TV series, and as Sean was saying, it's fantastic. I highly recommend it to everyone.
Brilliant show.
I've been watching True Detective with Jodie Foster. It's good to see Jodie Foster back.
I love Jodie Foster. I just saw her in a preview for a movie with her and Annette Bening. Annette Bening's, I forget the name of it, but Annette Bening swims. She's like swimming a race across like the ocean or something like that.
Okay.
It looked interesting, but
Without
yeah,
Warren
Jodie Foster.
Without Warren Beatty.
Without Warren Beatty. He let her out. He was trying to retain the Dick Tracy rights. So she's fine. You keep that. I'll go do something with Jodie. And it seemed like it was a good movie. Well, it's the one she's nominated for an Oscar. I want to say she's nominated for an Oscar for it. What am I saying? Annette Bening. She's nominated. It's one of the. She's Best Actress nominated.
She's always been excellent. But the thing is that she was excellent. Then she got with Warren Beatty, and then we never saw her again. This is it's like, and I mean, it's a bit like. Well, it's a bit like Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie. It's like Angelina Jolie was around all the time, and then when she got married to Brad Pitt, it's kind of like her movie career went to kind of the backseat. Well, she did go around.
She was doing all the philanthropy. Yeah, she was doing all the philanthropy. She was adopting. She became an ambassador to the UN, I think.
Yeah.
So I mean,
but her movie career kind of stalled. I mean, there's so many other people. Rita Wilson.
Yeah. Well, Rita. I mean, when she's maintaining the Playtone empire at that point, so you don't have to work against at that point.
But she's given some great children actors. I mean, Colin Hanks is freaking fantastic.
We won't mention Chet, but yes, Colin is fantastic. Colin is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. But what else have I seen? I saw a movie on Shudder called Destroy All Neighbors, which is
with Jonah Ray, host of MST3K. Yes.
Yeah, and directed and written by Alex Winter.
Oh yeah, the great Bill S. Preston Esquire.
It reminds me of a lot of back in the early 90s, he did a film with Keanu Reeves where they're all in a lot of makeup, and I can't remember. Freaks. It has that feel to it.
If it has I will definitely love this movie. I love Freaks.
If you like Freaks, I think you'll like the movie then. So
Keanu Reeves is Ortiz, the goat boy, or Ortiz, the dog boy. Ortiz, the dog boy, and Mr. T is the bearded lady.
It has that feel to it. So
okay, I love that. It's such a manic feel to that movie. So yeah, okay.
And this movie has that same manic feel. So, and then I watched a Spanish horror film on Shudder called The Passenger.
Okay.
Which is basically about this bus driver, and he brings these women onto his bus, and they're going to cross, and they hit somebody, and it kind of all goes off from there into this weird sci-fi horror gore thing. Okay. Excellent. I don't know about European horror films, but I always quite liked the way that they portray themselves, and it just feels like. And I think if Americans did it, it would just feel run of the mill, but because it's Spanish, it doesn't feel run of the mill. So I don't know if just me being an egotist about European filming, or just me or it is better. So I'm not quite sure, but I did really enjoy it, but other than that, I move on Thursday. So I'll be in Dallas. Our next episode will be in Dallas. And so dealing with that and custom forms for the cat and custom forms for the shipping and government forms for this and insurance forms for that. So yeah, so it's turning into quite an expensive affair, and dealing with government bodies it hasn't been the best.
All the joys of American democracy at work, and bureaucracy for that matter.
Bureaucracy at them. Oh my god! And filling out a visa form for my other half, and that gets lost. And then they said they can't do an interview until to June, where he has, and so I had to get an external company to come in and fight this, and now he's got an interview on Tuesday. We'll see how that all goes. So he'll either be with me or he won't. He'll be a month after me, but we'll see how all that goes. So
it's a nightmare, an absolute nightmare.
And how do I deal with the stress? I've been playing Fallout 4, and along the way, which helps me feel a whole lot better. So
that's good.
I got my little Fallout little statuettes, that I have on my little. I got my house. I built my house and everything. So yeah, so I'm wasting my life away doing that at the moment until the new Tomb Raider that comes out on Monday.
It's out on Monday. Ah, all right. I might have to check that out.
It's cheap. I mean, Xbox is selling it for 20 quid for all the 3 remasters.
Oh yeah, it's the remastered version of the original 3.
And Switch is doing it for 23, 24. So I imagine a computerized version of the computer version is going to be somewhere between those two. Those prices between the two.
I will check it out. I absolutely will.
20 quid, 3 games remastered. You can't. I think what we're gonna find is what we found with Crash Bandicoot. That because they're a game of the 90s, it's probably gonna be bloody difficult.
Oh my god, I suck at all these older games now. Whenever I get the remasters, I'm like, oh yeah, why am I playing this? I was horrible back then. I'm horrible now. I of the Grand Theft Auto remastered trilogy, I beat San Andreas. First time I ever did that. And Vice City, I got near the end, further than I ever did when I played it originally. And Grand Theft Auto 3, I got to the same place I did originally, and I just gave up. So yeah, it's sometimes the remasters are good, and sometimes you just are reminded how horrible you are.
I think San Andreas I finished. Vice City I didn't. I got to that big Scarface ending.
Yes.
The last one, and that's where I always got stuck in. I always got killed in the mansion. And then I can't remember the third one. I think I finished the third one. Though I put it away and played other games and then came back to it, and then played other games and came back to it, and somewhere on the 5th or 6th coming back to it, that's when I was able to finish it.
Yeah.
Because I was just getting frustrated. The point where it's like you're almost throwing things at the TV.
Yeah.
And you're blaming the game, fucking game, when actually it's just you.
That's part of the reason. I'm like thinking maybe a year later, I'll jump back into it again. I'll give it another shot.
Yeah,
I will say
that works.
I will say this. One movie recommendation I forgot to mention. A completely blind Criterion buy. I was at Barnes & Noble. I picked it up off the shelf. Just thought it looked good. Raised to Kill. Seijun Suzuki. It's a Seijun. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Seijun Suzuki. It's a mafia or a Yakuza movie. A hitman who is obsessed with sniffing rice. Apparently, that's like his aphrodisiac. He gets very turned on by the smell of boiling rice. He botches a hit, and his whole world starts crumbling down around him. It's a tale that's been told many, many times, but this one, there's something about it. I was just hypnotic. It was made in 1967. It's in black and white.
Okay.
I highly recommend this one. It's just weird and out there, and I think it said it was nearing the end of the Japanese pop art movement that was going on around then. I think that's what it was. They were describing it as, but a completely random blind buy, picked it up and fell in love with it. So highly recommend Raised to Kill if you get a chance.
I picked up on Blu-ray the complete Twilight Zone, the original on Blu-ray, and the Night, the complete original, because when I go to Dallas, I'm putting that in my suitcase with me, those 2 box sets, because my shipment's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to arrive, so I won't have any discs. So I figured they'll keep me going.
That'll help. That will help indeed.
Yeah.
It's a lot. Yeah, man, that's a long time.
And that my Friday the 13th box set, that's in the luggage with me now as well. So I always have to go back to Friday the 13th, even though they're probably all on Paramount Plus streaming service now.
Yeah, well, at least the first 8.
Yeah.
I think so. I don't know. They're starting to sell off everything. All the streaming services. They got rid of all the original Star Trek films. They're now on HBO.
Well, another thing I realize now is that Batman the Animated Series is now all available to stream on Netflix and Amazon Prime now as part of your membership. So
I wonder if they got the order right for them.
The Amazon Prime, yes, and also in the Netflix.
Ooh, okay.
Because the reason why I know that is because I had to. Well, I accidentally packed the Batman into the box. So that's in my, what is it, 15 boxes of discs, box discs. I realized I got over 3,000 DVDs and Blu-rays.
Get a lot of stuff. It's going to be a long stages, bringing it over in stages.
So saying that, Be interesting when the new places where I find room for this. But I did pack the Batman, so I actually had to go through. So I thought I was gonna have to buy these 4 episodes, but I went to Netflix, and Netflix ends at a certain point because the rest of them are coming later. So the ones that were on our block are not in there yet. So I went to Amazon Prime and said, "Oh, I'll buy the 4 episodes for the show," and everything's there. So I was like,
nice.
yes. So I didn't end up buying it. And that's a segue to our Batman the Animated Series. We'll be covering the Avatar, which is a mystical Egyptian scroll donated to the Gotham Museum by Bruce Wayne. It's stolen by Ra's al Ghul, forcing Batman and his lover Tal al Ghul to join forces and prevent the power-mad Ra's al Ghul from unlocking the scroll's secrets of life and death. Their quest takes them to a hidden temple deep beneath the Egyptian desert. Then the Dark Knight is forced into a terrifying battle with an ancient Egyptian sorceress who seeks to destroy them all. So, Sean, what are your thoughts of Avatar?
Avatar was an interesting one. It's your Ra's al Ghul trying to find an ancient scroll that gives him directions to a mummy that is bathing in a Lazarus pit, essentially. You get to further continue the story of Talia and Bruce. You get to see them interact a lot more, which there's something about Talia and Bruce. Whenever I see them together on screen, it gives me a warm feeling because I start thinking, I'm like, this could be an alternate life for Bruce. More so than with Catwoman, because with Catwoman, there's this mischievous side. There's always he falls for these women that are always going to be difficult, always going to be problems, problems with the law, problems for him, problems with a lot of things. But
he likes the drama. He likes the drama.
He's addicted to the drama. But more so with Talia, you feel like there's stability. Whereas, like, this is who I would marry.
He's child with her, though, doesn't he?
He does. And that's part of the reason why it feels more so than with Catwoman. Only recently in the comic book series that they finally commit to having the comic. I never read into the series. I haven't read the modern series. The famous image of Batman and the Catwoman on the rooftop as he proposes to her. So they have kind of explored that aspect. But with Talia, there's a more maturity. There's much more maturity, whereas to their relationship. And I start thinking, I'm like, okay, what would happen? Would it be like Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Would it be like two ninja spies living together, constantly fighting off evil? Would it be can't escape their life together? Could you explore where it would be? What would Damien's life be like if at that point, if they had this life together? That could be a nice little Elseworld story. Like, what if they came together and they actually did raise a family? Uncle Raish trying to, constantly trying, or Grandpa Raish constantly trying to, get his hooks into Damien while he's early. You could do a little Smallville type relationship with them and see what
they both have daddy issues.
They both got the daddy issues, and everyone's got the daddy issues in this family. You got so it would be an interesting way to explore it. Probably wouldn't last more than just like a 6-episode thing. Just like, all right, what would happen? But I like their relationship together. And then when you finally get to the end, this was one of the few episodes I watched with Joe, because Joe has been working on the show on Joe Bob, so he didn't get a chance to watch all of them. But when he watched this one with me, he's just like, this has something. If this was just a straight up Universal monster movie, I'd be a lot more down for it. And I get what he's saying, but there's something about the twist that, like, okay, because I was thinking, I'm like, all right, he's going after the mummy because it's a form of immortality. Usually, whenever there's the mummies, it's a quest for immortality, and then you find out that the mummy is bathing in a Lazarus pit. All right, suddenly all makes sense. We're gonna get at the end of it, though. I mean, it ends in the exact same way. Talia cannot betray her father. Not going to turn her back on her, and just kind of rides off in the sunset with him. Sorry, beloved. There's a mutual understanding. Like, I knew you were going to do this. I won't tie you up. I'm just going to leave you out here without the horse. We're not going to try to kill you. We're not going to fight. And Batman quietly resigns himself. Well, I'll let you go. It's fine. I'll catch you later. Doesn't say it, but you know it's implied. And it's just one of those things where the relationship continues and will continue to flourish throughout. So I don't know. I liked it a lot.
I mean, I think there's some realism behind the relationship anyway, because the thing is, psychologically speaking, when a female or a woman has a relationship with a guy and the family's not too keen on that guy, the woman 9 times out of 10 will side with the family, even though the family could be wrong. So I think, to bring this to the series, I mean, I don't, we're talking generally speaking out here, people. So, so if you're, if this has worked different for you, you might, yay for you. But generally speaking, I mean, this is known as a thing where, and there's also the daddy's girl syndrome that plays through here, where daddy's always right. And, and then normally they, generally speaking, psychologically, is that, they say a woman or a girl is always looking for someone to emulate her father when they get married. And Bruce is a lot like, they're kind of two sides of the same coin, really, Rolgal. And
well, their initial introduction in the series was, I'm going to put you through these trials so that you can marry my daughter, so that you can take over my empire. It's she's always seen him as worthy and worthy of her love. It's just been forced upon both of them in such an awkward way that it'll never be. But it is just, it's a fascinating relationship between those two.
Well, Gal and Batman are fighting for the same thing, but just in very, very different ways.
One through genocide and one through using fear and the law. So yeah, it's very different ways.
Different ways, but for world peace, really.
Yeah.
But then again, also, if both of them should achieve that one, in their different ways, let's say one of them does achieve that, they would be very unhappy once they achieve that goal anyway. But sometimes I wonder if Batman keeps letting these people out of Arkham just so he has something to do, because without them, you can't have him.
Is Batman Alexander weeping for he has no worlds left to conquer at that point, or is it just and he needs to have them come out, or is because I don't know. I feel like Batman could retire. He'd be a miserable man, but he could retire. I think that he could step down because he's done it before. He stepped away from the spotlight, and something needs to happen. A loss of a Robin, a death of a death of an Alfred, something he can't control. Where he would force himself out, he'd be miserable, he'd hate himself. But I see himself stepping away. I could see him stepping away from it all, at least temporarily.
Well, he does kind of step away from it when we get to Batman Beyond. So
yeah, absolutely.
And we kind of get the retired, old, frail who kind of turns into an Albert kind of character.
You can only get so far before you can't go hella skiing anymore. It's just that simple.
Well, I imagine that when the decay of Bruce Wayne comes, it's going to come rapidly because I can't see how his body's going to be in a great shape.
I mean, yeah, the knees, the back, you're all the stuff that you're taking. You're going to be basically a bionic man. I think the most accurate depiction is Kevin Conroy in that one episode when they did the Crisis on Infinite Earth on CW. He's finally in live action as Bruce Wayne. He's wearing the full Superman-style mech suit. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much what Bruce Wayne would be like at this point.
All I can attribute to is I played hockey from 9th grade to 12th in school. And I can promise you my knees haven't been the same since. So
yeah, you feel it a lot more. You feel it, especially as I'm getting older. I'm feeling it too.
Oh, I have arthritis because of this, so like, yeah, okay. Our next episode is House and Garden. Not only has Poison Ivy been released from Arkham Asylum, she also married her doctor and settled down to help him raise his two sons. Still wealthy Gotham bachelors are being poisoned and robbed in ways that exactly mirror Ivy's old crimes. The attacks take a personal turn when Dick Grayson is kidnapped by the mysterious assailant. Is Ivy responsible? And if so, how can Batman prove it? What are your thoughts on House and Garden?
House and Garden was interesting one, only because it was keeping me guessing a little bit. I figured Ivy had something to do with it, but at a certain point, I'm thinking, who's this husband? We've never seen him before, and maybe there's something going on. Maybe there's a little bit more sinister or something sinister going on with him. Maybe he's trying. Maybe he's brainwashing her. Maybe he's manipulating her powers. Maybe there's a Stepford wife thing going on. I didn't know, and by the time you get to the end, I'm like, oh, it's just but yeah, no, it's I thought it was an interesting episode and how they went about it, because it kept me guessing till the end, which was I'm not used to with these episodes. Usually they're very you know what's going on. There's nothing real hidden. I didn't know if the husband had anything to do with it, which I kind of liked. It was smart writing.
I really liked the ending of it because she loved having a family, and I like that. So I did find interesting that when she was going through her photos and she had like her family, but then there's also pictures of Harley Quinn in there.
That still keeping those seeds alive, you're just putting all of them there, just like, oh no, she loves all of her time, and then comes back in the 2 episodes from now, the first name out of her mouth. What about Ivy? So I mean, like she, it's her and Ivy the happiest times when she's not with the Joker, not with Mr. J, or with Ivy, and it really shows. So,
and obviously Ivy feels the same way because she's got pictures of Harley Quinn, so it's like. So she's having a tear, and the tear falls on the family, but not before it also falls on Harley as well. Like, okay, so I like that though.
I do too,
and I like that Poison Ivy. I mean, okay, I don't. The only thing I like the progression that they went from babies to the husband, from the husband to the creature. And I like that, and that it didn't last long. That she has so much, but there is a problem with this. So therefore, but in a way, I think Ivy quite liked that because every day was a new beginning for her.
Yeah, it's much like a flower. You grow, you bloom, you die, and there's a rebirth. It's
because she said that they accept me for my crimes and they love me for it anyway. And of course, you would if if they have like a short lifespan situation.
Giving her plant babies growth hormones so that they wither and die quicker. There's something very twisted about that, but also, I mean, like, I don't know. It felt like something out of a video game level. Like more so than anything that they've had in there. Just like, all right, here's the something out of like the Arkham verse. Like they grow these spores and they'll attack you and you become mind controlled and something like that. I dug it a lot. I thought that it's also the look of the creatures. They were like these weird cactus looking monsters that kind of look like a cactus Hulk.
With like bear paws.
With bear paws,
cartoon bear paws,
but the rip pants and the rip shirt were very similar to the Hulk, just enough, just legally distinguishable, so that they couldn't get sued. But yeah, we'll give it a cactus hand and a Mo Howard haircut. But
I thought it was really freaky with the babies being born out of the pod, so that was kind of odd. That was kind of
that took me back a little bit. I'm like, where are we going with this? This is weird, but very cool. I dug it, but yeah, definitely a weird look for what.
Kind of remind me of Audrey too. In Little Shop where the faces come out of the pods. After you eat them, the faces come out of the pods. So it kind of remind me a little bit, but it also remind me of an old movie from the 70s which is based on Dean Koontz book called Demon Seed.
Okay.
Where basically Julie Christie is held captive by this mega computer machine that locks her in and impregnates her, and then the computer, and then she gives birth to like this computer child, which is it's a very weird 1970s along the lines of the Andromeda Strain. It has that kind of feel about it. I've only seen the movie on TV once when I was younger, and to be honest, to this day, I kind of need to buy a copy and rewatch it because it still haunts me to this day, and it might be really shit. But I just remember the baby coming out of this computer pod thing, and it kind of reminded me of that. That's why I kind of like the guns reminded me of Demon Seed. I said before, Demon Seed could be a really bad movie. I just remember it because it's something that was on network TV back in the 70s.
Wait a minute, Demon Seed. I want to say I have seen it. It's part of this video game that was done by what the hell is his name? The guy from Rick and Morty who just got canceled. He had this video game where they have movies that were licensed by Vinegar Syndrome. Tammy and the T-Rex was one of them. I want to no, not Demon Seed, Demon Wind. It was Demon Wind, not Demon Seed. Okay, Demon Seed sounds interesting though. This sounds like a fascinating movie. I got to check out.
It looks a lot like the Andromeda Strain. It has that kind of, from what I'm remembering, that aesthetic kind of feel to it, where a lot of white on white. Like I guess Stanley Kubrick's Clockwork Orange. There's when when they're doing the rape, everything was like white on white, kind of.
Yeah.
Or 20 or 2000.
THX. I was gonna say THX.
THX as well. So it had that feel about it. And I remember her being captive, and I remember her being inseminated by the computer. And then I remember the baby being born. It had like this weird computer voice, and the baby came out like as an 8-year-old, but it's just very, very weird.
What year did this movie come out?
But it did remind me of this episode a little bit. It's like I don't know why.
You said this from the movie from the 70s or the 80s?
Yeah, it was called it was called Demon Seed. I can't remember who else was in it. I know the book is written by Dean Koontz. So actually, this is the beginning of Dean Koontz's career.
Okay.
It came out in 1977.
77, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Dean Koontz, Julie Christie, Robert Vaughn is the voice of the computer, Lisa Liu, Barry Crodger, Larry J. Blake, and Garrett Graffin. But it's basically a one-woman show, basically. And yeah, it's a newborn born, and basically it's just her trapped in this house, and it's quite sparsely looking and stuff like this. Yeah, it looks like it was released on DVD in 2005. A Blu-ray was released in 2020 by HMV and their premium collection label with fold-out poster. Who knows? Maybe I should buy a copy and just. I mean, it's got to be pretty cheap. I can't picture it like doing anything, but.
You get to experience the joy. Don't forget to bring your player over to the US and buy an adapter. The joys of not being able to find any good physical media in this country. You're gonna have to import from Australia, as I have been doing lately.
Well, the reason why I'm taking my Blu-ray is quite small actually. It's smaller than the Xbox and thinner, of course. Yeah. But it's a multi-region.
Yes, that's the thing. I've been looking for a good multi-region player for myself.
Sony, it's very, very good. I think it cost me 50 quid on Amazon.
Not bad at all.
Yeah, it's got HDMI. You put the HDMI in it. It plays it through the sound system. Everything that you need it to do. Great sound, great thing. The only thing is that you have, how you have the red, blue, red.
Yeah, the RGB grade. Yeah.
So basically, you press the yellow one for region 1, the second button for region 2, the third one for region 3, so on and so forth. It's fine. You just got to make sure you hit that button before the disc goes on the machine, and then it reads it. If it does, it just goes not region, so you just have to eject. push the right button and it goes. The only problem I find is with DVDs sometimes is that I have to change the ratio on my television screen from for a 4.3 if it's a 4.3 TV thing. You try to widescreen it automatically. And I don't know if that's because it's region free, but Blu-ray is not a problem. It automatically goes to the format that it needs.
What I'm noticing with the DVDs, because I'm going through and I'm backing up a lot of my older ones. There's some 4:3 letterbox ones that are just naturally cropped because it was an anamorphic widescreen when they pushed the disc. So for those, you just have to adjust either your TV or your PlayStation or whatever your player is to full frame, and it'll fill the box for you. So it'll stretch the fill. It's a pain in the butt for the most part. Sometimes a little bit too much.
Yeah, sometimes you get because I remember when those DVDs first came out before widescreen televisions. The widescreen TVs were just coming out, but DVD was slightly ahead of that. So you had these things that were just letterboxed. But they were in 4:3. So it's like
it's a square within a square, and it's a tiny, tiny little baby square. Right now I'm dealing with that with a lot of my movies because there's a series on JoeBlow.com on YouTube or Joe Blow on YouTube called Movies that it's movies you want to remaster, but it's the best movies you haven't seen. The reality is we have seen them. Best movies that are it's movies that you want to remaster, and the one that they brought up was I actually own a physical copy of Ricochet. It's a action movie starring Denzel Washington and John Lithgow.
Oh, I have a copy of that on DVD.
I have a copy of it on DVD too, and I wanted to because I have a video editor, so I wanted to see if maybe I can stretch it up a little bit, or maybe I can clean it up a little bit, because it is sad that certain movies are not getting any love whatsoever. And I don't know if it's just because too many people own the rights to it, so it's an illegal nightmare to get it done. Some people just don't see the value in it. It is one of the best John Lithgow is crazy movies. He's done, in my opinion, John Lithgow has done 3 performances where you think he is the greatest movie villain of all time. You can't take your eyes off him when he's on screen. He may not be. There will always be better. But when you're watching it, you're just locked in. Raising Cain, the Brian De Palma movie.
I have that.
Ricochet, where he plays this psycho hitman, and his turn on Dexter. I think his turn on Dexter. Those 3, you cannot keep your eyes off him because he plays crazy psycho better than anyone, to the point that you're like, oh, this man, I think that the whole nice thing is really an act and this is the real guy, because he plays it so fucking good.
I'll add one more to it.
Yeah.
Brian De Palma's Obsession.
Oh, Brian De Palma's Obsession is a good one too. Yeah. Oh, Cliffhanger too, with Rennie Harlin's Cliffhanger.
Oh I forgot he's in Cliffhanger. I love Cliffhanger.
I do too. The thing with I just remembered I saw the scene, the stunt going from plane to plane.
I forgot he's in Cliffhanger. It's funny because I don't remember. That's weird because
Everyone forgets Cliffhanger.
I remember Bob Walton and Cliffhanger, and I always remember Sylvester Stallone, but I always forget about him.
He's such a sweetheart in everything he does that when he plays these villains, you're just so taken aback because he does it so fucking good. But Ricochet, that is one movie that I'm like, I want this thing remastered, if only because it is a secret sequel. Not many people realize it's a secret backdoor sequel to Die Hard. It's written by Brian D'Souza. And at the very last scene of the movie, I forget her name. She's a great actress. She's in all these action movies of the 80s. She played the reporter in Die Hard. She shows up on the scene as Gail Wallace or Gail Wallens or Gail Wallace. She shows up as that character at the scene at the end of the movie, basically confirming, this is all in the same world. It's so
but she was in Mermaids, something about mermaids always singing or something like that. What's her name?
Mary Ellen something. Mary Ellen
Trainer.
Mary Ellen Trainer. I think that's it. Yeah.
Another thing I remember Ricochet being Lindsay Wagner as well, Bionic Woman.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she was. She has a great turn in it, actually. She shows up in a male locker room. Everybody, just call me what you usually do. It feels weird calling you the frigid ice queen to your face. But she's she's fun in that. Denzel's great in it. Right? But yeah, there's I forgot how I got on this movie, but yeah, that's one of those movies that just deserves a little bit of love, and we need to have more movies like that.
I'm one of the movies I want on Blu-ray that I want cleaned up is The Seven Faces of Dr. Lao with Tony Randall, George Palfrey.
Oh, that's a good one.
One of my favorite all-time films. I can watch it over and over. But I mean, I have the DVD and I'm happy with the DVD and it's widescreen, but it doesn't really pop. It just looks like it's put it on DVD and it's, I mean, at least the sound's good on it and stuff like this.
Yeah.
But just Tony Randall playing the seven characters, and Barbara Eden looks beautiful, and then you have all these old time character actors in the background peppering everything through, and
that's
so
the thing about that's the thing I'm looking about. Even the worst, like not even the best movies, they have these shots. You see them in 4K, and you're just like, God, this is just gorgeous. This is absolutely breathtaking. I just got the 4K set for JFK, and you just little details. I haven't seen the movie in 30 years. And when I did, it was on HBO, so didn't look the best. Now you're just seeing how gorgeous the whole thing looks.
Oliver Stone, I mean, what happened to him? He disappeared.
It's weird with Oliver. Too much conspiracy theorists. I think he got chased out of the country because of some of this. I'm not chased out of the country, but he just got too deep into it. I know when he interviewed Putin, that put him on a lot of I don't know if that put him on lists, but I know that didn't exactly.
He's not any worse than Michael Moore.
That's the thing. He's not worse. It's not any worse than what Michael Moore did, or when Sean Penn went to interview Castro. I mean, it's like people interview dictators all the time. I mean, it is what it is. But I think
we had we had what's his name I can't think of their names now. When they did the North Korean movie that everyone goes up and
the interview. Yeah. Fun fact about that movie. I don't hold any ill feelings towards the makers of that movie. I got my data hacked because of that. Because Sony had a video game on their service called DC Universe Online, and that service got hacked because of that fucking movie. And I got some my data stolen because of that shit. Fortunately, you got that cleaned up, and I got it scrubbed, but it was just a fucking nightmare because of that.
I have to say though, the story behind the interview is a lot more interesting than the movie was.
Yes, the movie. I want to say I've seen 15 minutes of it. I've never actually.
I think it's on Netflix now. It's on. Yeah, I think it's on some streaming service now.
Netflix picked up the rights. They basically said, fuck it, we don't care about the controversy. We'll air it."
Well, I was quite shocked only because there seems to be some controversy about James Franco at the moment. I don't know if it's true or not. I don't care.
Well, he was a teacher at, I think, NYU or Columbia, one of the two RU
acting classes,
teaching acting classes, and
being inappropriate,
seducing his students and his teachers' aides. Yeah. He's kind of been. He actually got chased away out of Hollywood for a while. He's trying to make a comeback. I saw that he was doing I want to say he was doing a biopic for someone, maybe even Castro, actually, just to tie it together.
Well, I think personally, if you have atonement, then you should be allowed to come back. I mean, I like James Franco. I like James Franco as an actor.
I do too.
I was more shocked that mainly it was women, because I really thought he swung both ways, because he kind of gives that gay vibe a little bit.
He does have a little bit of some undertones in certain appearances. I honestly, you know what?
Even some of his posts before he got exiled. I mean, it's very. I mean, he was following me on Twitter. It was and some of this, and then and people he was following, he would send like a personal message. I mean, he's sending it to everyone. It's not personal, but to people he was following, he would send. You get the thing into your inbox, and you're like, okay, these are a bit gay here, but. And before anyone sits there and goes in there, I'm a gay man, so I can say this. Yeah. But yeah, it was kind of gay. But it was very odd. But
he's an interesting cat. But I'm with you. I mean, like, if as long as you make atonement and your crime wasn't a horrible thing, give yourself a second. You should be.
Well, if you're seducing people and people are going along with seduction, that's a little bit different than being forced.
See, that's the thing. If it was a
weird line.
If it was a power thing and he's using his power to do that, that's horrible. If it's a mutual thing, he shouldn't have still taken advantage of the situation, but it's a mutual attraction. I
don't know. I think, I mean, I kind of feel that it depends on the power play. If
that's the thing, yeah.
If they're promising you something,
yes,
and you're going through the sexual process to get what they're promising you.
Yeah.
I think you have to take a little bit of responsibility yourself, because obviously you want something out of this transaction. So, I'm not sitting there saying that the victim is guilty. I'm saying the victim has to take a little bit of responsibility here. If you're forced into the room and then someone's forcing themselves on you, that's a totally different thing.
That's completely different. Absolutely.
But if someone's seducing you, and to be honest, there are some movie stars that seduced me. I'd probably be more than willing to be seduced by them. I'm just saying I would,
Fair enough.
There's some people I probably wouldn't be too thrilled at. I mean, only because, I don't find them attractive in any kind of way, but there are other movie stars that I'm sure if I was seduced by them, I'd probably be a bit more willing to go along with it because of what they look like and who they are, maybe situation. And then if it doesn't go anything past the first night of sexual conquest, I probably wouldn't feel slighted, because I think I would look at it in a realistic form of view of what you're in.
Yeah.
But then again, if I'm sleeping with someone because I want to pass an acting class as well, it's this really, there's all these thin lines that you have to kind of look at situation.
He's just on the surface. You get an honorary teaching spot at a prestigious acting school so that you can pick up chicks. That if you just look at it on its base level, looking at the story, it's bad. It's bad news for him, and I'm like, I'm with you.
It's worse than a rock star sleeping with their groupies.
No, it isn't. And but at the same time, you're not teaching them, and those. It's weird. I don't know. I
guess how I'm looking at it is that, and this is no disrespect to James Franco's acting, okay? But
what are you really getting out of the class?
Yeah, it's not exactly Lee Strasberg, is it?
No. I get what you're saying. What are you going to teach me how to do? Yeah, you were in Pineapple Express. You teach me how to be high all the time? Teach me how to fuck up the Oscars? It's
a bit like taking a directing class from someone who directs TV soap operas.
No, I gotcha.
But if the directing class by Quentin Tarantino, and then that's happening, I can I can understand that more. But I just don't think that taking an acting class with James Franco as your teacher is going to really get you that far in your career.
No, it's not. It's one of those things with James Franco. He's gotten to the point where, he reached a certain point. Now, even whenever his name is brought up in interviews with Seth Rogen's like, yeah, I can't work with him. I can't. Sorry. Well, we all know what's floating out there. I can't work with him because of it. I'm like, well, you don't get that level of honesty usually in answers, but yeah.
Nah, I think it's a bit of a shame a little bit as well. So the thing is like, I can kind of understand it by using your power, but at the same time, if his power is being used on you, I think the victim has to take a little bit of responsibility, because he wasn't pushing them up against the wall situation. It's kind of like, because I think they wanted something from him as well.
Yeah, I mean.
So it's this weird transaction. Should it happen? No. But are both sides completely innocent? No. So so when we get to situations like that, that's the reason why I kind of look at it as like, if you put yourself in a situation like that, you have to take a little bit of responsibility for bad decision making on your part. but at the same time, this person shouldn't be doing it to begin with. But I think there's got to be some shared blame here going on between both parties a little bit. Because if you don't do that, there are real cases of real shitty things that people do to each other, whether it's the rape that you talked about earlier with the wrestling team, that or indefinite president, basically like, I'm gonna rape you, or you're gonna lose, or you're gonna have sex with me, or you're gonna lose your job, and those kind of situations. Sometimes I think some of these other things kind of make those other issues a bit too cloudy, and those other issues shouldn't be cloudy. They need to be,
Well, yeah, I mean, Lord knows, majority of relationships form in the workplace. It happens. I don't know what it's like in the UK, but yeah, majority of the relationships in the States, they form in the workplace. I work at a restaurant where, flat out, if you start dating one another, in order to avoid any potential conflict, they'll just transfer you to another restaurant. They have a couple in their chain. They're like, look, we can't risk it. If two chefs started dating and then they break up and they have to work together, we don't want the awkwardness. We're just going to separate you two. You can date, it's fine, but we're just going to separate you two.
I grew up on a farm, and excuse my language, but my mama told me this, that you should never shit where you eat.
I believe that. Yes. Believe me, when I first got in the restaurant industry, nearly 15 years ago, it was like the Wild West. And the first 18 months, everybody was just it was just fun, drinking, drugs, and orgies, and having fun. And then after a while, you get to the point where, like, everyone's going their separate way. We have to work with each other. We got to keep this sane here. And
the funny thing about it is that
show up, have fun, go home.
The problem with relationships anyway is that they never break up evenly anyway. When love is gone, there's always one left holding on.
Yeah.
But I know with my relationships and stuff like this, and I'm friends with everyone. I've been in 17-year-old relationships. I've been in a 5-year relationship, and a 12-year relationship. And then I've had people that, I dated for a month or two here and there situation. But I've always remained friends with them, and I've always taken accountability for when they didn't work out, whether it's they cheated on me or I cheated on them or whatever the situation is. But I've always taken responsibility for my part, because it takes two people to break up, and it takes two people to get together. It takes two people, and there's my side, their side, and then the truth's in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
The problem is, but at the same time, whenever I've broken up with anybody, or they've broken up with me, I take our mutual friends and I give them the mutual. Here, you take the mutual friends. I don't want anything to do with them, because they're the ones running back and forth anyway, creating more of a problem. But I always find it that I've never got other people involved in any of my breakups. Or, I've never dated anyone I worked with, but at the same time, even the people I work with that have nothing to do, are not friends with the other half, or my friends who have nothing to do with the person I've broken up with. I never go into details about my breakup with anybody, because I think it's like, and I think what we have with breakups is that people don't break up responsibly. But then again, I mean, I work out a little bit different because I date guys, and I think dating women sometimes can be a bit problematic when it comes to the breakup, because nothing's worse than a woman scorned. So maybe there's a bit of difference here, because I know that women tend to indulge things a lot more internally, where men are a bit more external about their feelings. And this doesn't mean that one's better than the other or anything like that, but because what sometimes I think is things are taken in more internally, that sometimes you have to work through that in a more vocal manner with all those around you. So maybe that's where the problems sort out. But I guess I always find it a bit odd that I could work with someone I broke up with and just broken up with, and still keep it very professional. But if I'm working with but I've been in relationships with people I have dated people I have worked with, I guess, but never gone very serious with. But I always, when I went home, it's like but when I was at work, it's like they didn't exist. I got on better with people, other people around them, and because I didn't really talk to them at work, I only talked to them at home. And when I talked to them at home, it was nothing about fucking work anyway. So, so I kind of I had these little rules in my head for stuff like that, or even people that I've had a really close friendship with, that I've worked with, and then something happens and it's kind of we parted ways in whatever ways, you know. We have one person on the podcast who doesn't do the podcast anymore because he started working where I worked, and he got a bit funny after he started working at the place. But he made his decisions. I have no control over how he feels or anything like that. If he ever wants to keep in contact, it's got my number, and I don't have anything bad to say about it. Other people are saying stuff, but like, it's his decision. It's his life. If that's what he decides, that's what he decides. I'm okay with it. Now there's other people's little inputs. So it's kind of like, that's like, well, didn't they tell you? Or did I go, no, he had his reasons. If you want to know his reasons, you can ask him, but it's nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And I think that's probably why I think people kind of need to be able to break up reasonably and not try to get everyone involved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that makes sense. No, it's your breakup. It's not everybody's breakup. I mean, they may try to. Well, I have so many memories of you two together. It's not. That's you. It's my relationship, my life.
Well, I think other people tend to feel. I mean, another thing is, I think if you get other people involved, people like other people's drama, and they'll string out that drama just as long as they don't have to deal with it themselves. So they'll like, he said, she said. I mean, nothing's worse. I remember when I broke up with Mandy, when we were together for 17 years. And I remember one of our friend called me up and goes, "Da, da, da, I'm so sorry." And I go, and I spoke openly about, the pain and how I've hurt. And then I hung up from her, and then she obviously called him because Mandy called me and goes, why did you say such and such? And I think I only spoke to one person. It's like, oh, this person's running back and forth. Nice. So I said to her, I go, listen, she called me up at a week time. I go, I didn't say anything. I didn't say what she said to you. I just sit there and said that we broke up, that it was mutual, that it's hard for me because that was unexpected on my part. But if this is your decision, I have to respect it because I'm not going to hold on to something that the other person doesn't want. And that's what I said. And she went back and sit there and said that that I did this and that he did this and that. And I go, that's not what was said. And he goes, oh, okay. I tell you what, you can keep her as a friend and you can keep our mutual friends. Just like, no. I got my friends.
I'm fine. What about our friends? You can keep. I've thought about it. You can keep them.
Yeah, keep the mutual friends are the ones you need to get rid of. Get rid of the mutual friends because the mutual friends will take a side, but before they take a side, they'll go running back and forth to decide which side benefits them most. So
I've been picked in divorce. In many divorces, I've been chosen as a friend. I'm like, oh, I'll take that as a compliment.
Yeah,
I'm like, I'm property. I'm like the dog. So,
but you have to figure out which person that you feel most closest to.
Well, that was the thing. At a certain point, the last time this happened, I was friends with one person first, met the other one through them, became better friends with the second person than the first person, and eventually, when they broke up, well, I've been hanging out with the second person and their friends a lot more often than I have been with you. So, yeah, I'm sorry. Nothing personal.
Well, relationships are like, the tide basically. It's like the tide comes in, you're friends, and then the tide goes out, and for sometimes you get carried off in this direction with the tide where before you were quite stationary on the beach. You just never know. So sometimes your personality tends to sometimes align with the other person that brought you, other than the person that brought you in to meet the other friends. And sometimes your personality ends up aligning more with the new friends that they introduce you to than with the original person. Who knows why that happens? There's no rhyme or reason behind it.
Yeah.
It happens, so. And on that note, I think this brings us to the terrible trio.
The terrible trio.
3 wealthy boar friends decide to seek new thrills by becoming master criminals. As the fox, the shark, and the vulture, the terrible trio pick Gotham clean until they encounter the one person who cannot be bought off, Batman. Oh, what are your thoughts of the terrible trio?
Well, yeah, I'm just seeing who played the shark, and he looked, because I'm like, this guy looks like his voice, but I couldn't place who it was. Peter Scolari. There's one animated character in this episode who looks exactly like Peter Scolari, and wouldn't you know it, he's played by Peter Scolari. I like this one because it didn't have your typical villains. The Terrible Trio is a famous Batman villain group. They've been around, I want to say, since the 60s. I could be mistaken, but they've been around for a while. I like the idea of one's a master of the sea, one's the master of the land, and one's a master of the air. They're all wearing different hoods. One's a fox, one's a shark, and the vulture is the final one. Hector Elizondo played Sheldon Felbrick. Cool.
Oh, I love Hector.
I do too. But it was a really solid one because you get to see Bruce kind of dealing with his socialite friends and the fact that the villains are the socialite friends. Hector Elizondo's daughter, what's her name? Rebecca. She is trying to, she's more of the rebellious daughter. She's attracted to Bill Mummy's Warren. He plays the fox. And he, whatchamacallit? The way that they play off each other, it's very it's funny. They all of his socialite friends, they all see Bruce as the boring, uptight one that doesn't really fit into their gatherings. Just probably goes home and goes to sleep, that type of guy. And meanwhile, they're the rebels. They're going out there. And as the episode goes on, Warren's demeanor gets more and more menacing. It starts off them committing a crime. And while they're making their escape, they detonate a bomb and it blows Robin into the ocean. They get away. From that point on, everything escalates and escalates to the point where he's getting more and more unhinged. Decides we're going to rob from our friends. We're going to, kidnap my girlfriend so she can't get away. She's too much of a liability. Let's try to kill Batman because we've escaped him twice. So clearly we're feeling invincible. But meanwhile, the two others, the vulture and the shark, they're like, it might be going a little too far in a few places. And they're starting to sense the menace is getting there. So it was a little, I thought it was decent for what they were given. And I like the idea of, all right, we're seeing that the rich and powerful are also starting to get a little bored and they want to start knocking off criminals or committing crimes and robbing people while wearing masks as well.
I think what I also like is that even though you have the fox, the shark, and the vulture, I like the idea of the fox fitting the stereotype where he's quite sly, sneaky. And then, of course, when he gets cornered, that's when he starts coming out and biting. And it's only because it's when he gets cornered, that's when we get the alternative, all of a sudden this is when it becomes menacing. And I thought that was quite clever in the writing of it. I did find a missed opportunity because I'm not quite sure if they were spending beyond their means, is that's the reason why they were stealing money. Because he goes, oh, okay, I'll pay for, because she's like, oh, daddy's gonna be upset when he gets the credit card for my dress. And he goes, oh, don't worry, baby, I'll pay for it situation that causes them to steal from the father to pay for the dress situation and give the idea that he's going to support her and pay for stuff for her. But I wasn't, because I wasn't quite sure, because then they go, oh, we're just doing this for fun. But this is coming from him at this point where actually he's been cornered. So I'm wondering if their trust funds are not supporting him in their lacks of luxury. And that's the reason why they're stealing, because it kind of pertains to that in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then when he gets cited, it's like, oh, we're just doing this for fun. And then I think the most telling thing I found about this episode is that let's get rid of the money. And they throw the money in front of a Broadway opening. And I thought to myself, like, and you're like, oh, look, they're throwing money and they're going towards it. It's like, well, it's not like they're going through the poor area of town throwing money. They're throwing money at a Broadway opening, which are normally, as you know, if you want Broadway tickets to go see an opening, you're looking at about 150 to 500 plus pounds a ticket. So they're not going to be really poor people standing in line there. So they couldn't even get away with the Robin Hood theories, like, oh, we're stealing from the rich and giving to the poor situation. So I found that quite interesting in its own self.
I think that they're just bored trust fund kids who found themselves just like they're trying to convince themselves that no, we're doing this for fun. We don't need this. We're just that this is and then eventually you get to the point paying $5,000 credit card bills for your girlfriend that maybe you do need it. You might be onto something there.
Yeah, because I think it's because it when they said it, though, this is just a situation, but it was kind of like after she found out it was them, and this was their defense. Oh, don't worry, we're going to give all the money back. And that right there, I think that's when I realized is like actually they're lying because they said nothing about giving money back to anyone that they were.
To be fair, maybe it's Peter Scolari who he was the one whenever there was any issue or whenever Warren started breaking out. Peter Scolari, he played Gunther. Whenever Gunther started like trying to calm the situation. He actually said, well, you're going a little too far here. It seems like he maybe, and even then he got pushed out of the way. It was Armand who tackled her or held her in place. Maybe he was starting to realize this is going a little too far. Maybe he looked at it as, we're doing things. We're just, having fun. We're rich kids. We're getting away with it. We can do whatever we want. And at the end of it, Warren, even he's just like, I get the best justice money can buy. Not so true, but he in his mind, he believed that. I think, honestly, in Gunther's mind, at least, he was thinking, no, we're just having fun. Aren't you taking it a little too far? And then at some point, it stopped being fun, at least for one of them.
I think that Warren was the ringleader. I think he was the bully, and I think the other two were along for the ride.
Yeah.
But I think Gunther didn't real. I think the other two were more aligned than what Gunther was.
Yeah.
So, definitely. Well, and I think sometimes you do get that in a trio anyway. You get two that are more aligned, and then you always have three's a crowd, isn't it? So
yeah.
So I think it showed it off quite well, situation.
It was a solid one.
I mean, I do think that the girl with the, her father, and I think that she could have been a bit more sympathetic to what happened to her father, because it was almost like, this happened to my father, so what does this mean for me? Situation.
Yeah, she did not show much guilt or remorse at all for any involvement whatsoever. When she's confronted by Warren about it, and everybody, it's like, oh, it's not like you liked your dad anyway. There wasn't a denial. It was just, well, he is just my dad, and then we move on from it. So
yeah, precisely. So I got to my feeling that's like, it's almost like they could have included her in on it, and she probably would have gone for it.
Yeah,
kind of feel to it. So I thought it was quite interesting the way that was written and the way that they were able to portray that. So. Because it gave it a lot of more layers than what it should have had. Because on surface, it doesn't seem like it'd be that layered, but when you watch it, there's a lot of layers going on, which I quite liked.
Oh, yeah.
This brings us to our last episode called Harlequinade. The Joker gains possession of an atomic bomb, which he uses to threaten Gotham City, forcing Batman and Robin to form an uneasy alliance with Harley Quinn in order to stop the clown prince of crime. Harley leads them on a madcap hunt through Gotham, and eventually into a deadly showdown where Harley is torn between her promise to help Batman and a twisted love for the Joker. So, Sean, what are your thoughts of Harlequinade?
Harlequinade is great. This is one of those episodes where I love Harley Spotlight episodes, and this is a great one where the Joker steals a nuke, and that's a horrifying thought in its own right, and the premise for numerous video games. Actually, I think that's how. I think it's the how injustice begins. But basically, yeah, the Joker steals a nuke, and everyone's freaking out. Like, okay, the Joker's got a nuke. What the hell are we gonna do? Let's bust out Harley Quinn. Let's take Harley Quinn out of jail, team her up with Batman and Robin, and have her help trying to find the Joker. There's a lot of fun that can be had with just that premise alone. And the Joker, Harley, she's in her element. It's a really strong Harley episode. She's making jokes. She's pushing buttons in the Batmobile. She's dismissing Robin. It's all these little things where you could tell she's having fun. But at the end, that same abusive relationship rears its ugly head, and she can't help herself. She has to keep going back to the Mr. J, even though he was going to detonate the entire city and leave her behind because he didn't have enough time to rescue her. No, don't worry. And was going to detonate all of her friends, all of their friends, including Ivy and Two-Face and the guy with the hat. It's seeing Harley and Batman interacting and just kind of teaming up, and Harley going through those momentary lapses of goodness. It's quite amusing to see. I don't know. It's always funny to me whenever Harley has that crisis of faith and realizes, oh, maybe I could be the psychiatrist. Harleen comes out, and she just like, oh, what are you doing, Harley? Stay away. We look at what you went to medical school. You're a doctor, for God's sakes. So I love that aspect of it, and you do get to see that a little bit.
I also like with Harley, though, and this is what I love most about her character as well. There's a method to her madness.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, when she goes into that mob room and, before she does her Fabulous Baker Boys number, but, and you think, oh, she's turned on Batman. But the thing is, she did it because Batman needed information, which Batman was able to get information about because of it. So she wasn't turning on him, but she had to put him in that predicament. But you never know what she's up to. And I like that because it keeps you guessing. It's like, and what I like about Harley the most, and whether it's in, when her and Poison Ivy go on their, road spree that we saw, last month, or this one, and other episodes, is that there is a method to this madness that seems very mad and off kiltered, and what the hell does she think she's doing? And then you start thinking about it, it's like, actually, she is actually so much smarter than everyone else around her. It's kind of scary.
I mean, she is a licensed therapist. She knows what she's talking about, and she could probably dissect anyone mentally if she really wanted to, and put any. It's just the love of Mr. J and the love of all that clouds her judgment.
But I also think that, and this is where I think the Suicide Squad and movies get her wrong, because I don't think they really understand the character of Harley Quinn.
I think
because she's, I mean, I have to sit there and say that the Gotham Knights, you get Harley. I got as far as Harley Quinn, and Harley Quinn actually, the method of her madness is very well portrayed in that, which is probably the first time in a computer game that is actually kind of portrayed quite well. The game's not brilliant, but for that one moment, you're like, okay, here she is. And I find, like, in the Suicide Squad, when we get Harley Quinn, she's kind of like, there's something missing in her character that we get in the animated series that makes her a lot more compelling and a lot more interesting and a lot more it's we're watching an animated character, and when she feels upset, we actually feel upset for her, even though when we excuse her for everything that she does, we still excuse her.
There's a sympathy in her eyes, the way she's drawn. There's she does have Disney eyes in certain shots when she's not wearing her mask. And there's
when her one of her finest moments here is when she's sitting in the Batmobile and he's having a go at her and she's mimicking. And he looks at her and she's like, "What?"
There's plenty of moments like that where you could just she's kind of an avatar and for the viewer, and God, it's so much fun. She's very fun in this episode. It's one of the better Harley ones that we've had so far. And
it's just very bizarre because she was even supposed to be thought of as twice. I mean, she was just brought in because they're like, oh, let's put her in this one episode. And now we're watching this character evolving in front of our eyes, which the animated series did fantastically well. I mean, there's a lot of other characters they turned into these evolving characters. And I have to say, out of the live action, and I do feel Harley Quinn's probably more represented in her TV series that she has at the moment, the animated TV series she has at the moment.
Oh God, yeah.
And I'm just kind of wondering, it's almost like who's ever writing the scripts in Hollywood for Harley Quinn's character in the Suicide Squad, and apparently, I think coming out with a Harley Quinn movie, there's talks about it, whether it surfaces will.
An animated film or
I think they're talking about a live action at the moment.
So what I've heard is Margot says she wants to move on from the role and have somebody else pick it up. They're probably going to do a Harley vehicle in James Gunn's DCU. I don't know anything about it. They haven't really said anything.
Hugo Weaving's sister to do it, probably, because they're probably interchangeable, aren't they?
I was going to say, who would be a good Harley in DC in James Gunn's world? But honestly, I think that whoever he gets, it's probably going to be a little down the line. His Batman movie, I think, is just starting casting. I know that the guy who plays Jack Reacher on the series, he's kind of campaigning for it. He's a decent actor. I don't know. I want to say he played Aquaman on Smallville way back in the day. But to be fair, I like Reacher a lot. I don't know how much of that is him or how much of it is just it's an action movie. It's just a Schwarzenegger action movie in modern day, and so it's simplistic enough that I like it. But if that's I don't know how much of a Harley Quinn movie is in the works right now. I do know that Margot wants to move on from the role, and of her 3 appearances, or 4 technically. Was she? Wait, no. Yeah. No, wait. She wasn't in the Snyder Cut. Never mind. Of her 3 appearances where she's done the role, I think James Gunn kind of got it the best. Yeah. I think that because, but also she was also in her own separate movie for a good chunk of the movie. She's like married to a dictator wants to marry her, and it's like, and she's like his Evita Peron and all that stuff, and it was just very weird.
I think they do. I think she does okay. I just think there's a lot more to her. That I think that whoever writes for this character in live action, I think they need to look at all her characterization, because I mean, she started off in the animated series, and I think that's what they need to go through. Look at every character and how she evolves and what she becomes, and she does become something by the end of the animation run that unfortunately in later episodes like the Batman and other animated things that moved on, they kind of lose her a little bit. She's not as prominent as in this animated series version that we get. And I think that they really need to look at her and follow these episodes along, because she is a character that she could become goddess level. So
absolutely.
If put in the right suit. And at the moment, I think what they do is they have an idea who she is, but I don't think anyone's done the research of who she is. And that's what we need, is someone to do the work, do the research of who she is, And I think through the Batman animated series, that's the only way you're going to do that, because I know that comic books have kind of ran off with her and stuff like this. But see, this is the birth of hers here. And this is where she grows. And this is where she becomes how she becomes. So you have to look at this and what other people have done with her. That's fine and dandy. But they have to keep this centralized version of her in order to build upon what they're trying to build upon.
Paul Dini mentioned that he considered 48 hours as inspiration for this episode, and it's a perfect analogy for it. It really is.
She's like Eddie Murphy.
She is Eddie. She is Eddie.
Bruce Willis, Nick Nolte.
I'm just picturing Nick Nolte as Bruce Wayne. That he'd be a good one in the Dark Knight if they did the Dark Knight Returns. Nick Nolte, grizzled Bruce Wayne, you fucking asshole.
If they ever do Batman Beyond, he make a perfect Bruce Wayne.
You know what? They were going to, and then the flash bomb. It was going to be Keaton. They were building towards that Kevin Smith idea that he just said, just cast Michael Keaton, do a Batman Beyond movie, and take all the money in. And that's a free idea from Kevin Smith. And they tried. They put him in the Flash, and the Flash bombed. And then they canceled Batgirl. By the way, speaking of delayed movies, I just want to say fuck David Zaslav for what you're doing to the Coyote versus Acme movie. This pisses me off. They are officially shelving it. They're taking a tax write-off on it.
Why is Warner doing this? It's really how much
they
making more money on the write-off?
So apparently,
just like the producers, they'll get Mel Blanc's producers.
They're getting $30 million from the write-off. Apparently, they weren't. They said publicly that they were going to solicit offers from other studios. They never did. That was all bullshit. Other studios were saying we'll exhibit it at South by Southwest. They never responded. Other studios are saying we'll pay you $40 million, $10 million more than what you'd get in your write-off. They were looking for 70 to 80. No one was willing to offer them 70 to 80, so they said, all right. Apparently, Zaslav never even saw the movie. The DeLuca and the other person in charge, they saw a director's cut. That's the only version that's been seen. People who have seen it say it captures the original tune of Looney Tunes better than anything. It's an exceptionally great movie, using one of your IPs that has been with you literally, hundreds, almost 100 years at this point. It's one of those things where it's ridiculous why you would do this, but they're billions in the hole. They're absolutely billions in the hole, and they're trying to do whatever they can. That's the reason why Batman the Animated Series is on Amazon and HBO. That's why it's on these things. They're trying to do whatever they can. They're teaming up to do streaming services.
It would make more sense. They would make more money just. Let's sit there and say it doesn't live up to par, and it's very possible. The Batgirl. I mean, we've seen enough superhero movies that haven't lived up to expectation. That's not too surprising. But to just shelve it, because to me it just feels like
never to be released.
If you see Mel Brooks, the producers, the whole thing,
of course,
for our listeners out there is basically they decided they could make more money with a flop than they could with a hit, so they do this Hitler musical.
Springtime for Hitler in Germany.
A huge flop, so that way they can make more money off the insurance.
Yeah.
So, but the thing is, if they're making 30 million on a movie that they're spending 80 million on, they're not making money. So, would it make more sense to put it through a streaming service, whether Warner has their own streaming service or Peacock or Hulu or Netflix?
They feel that they will. So it's the thing. If they spent 80, they put equal amount into distribution. So you're at 160, and then you got to make about 1.5 times that in order to break even after all the distributors. So they're looking at it as, all right, we've already dropped 80. Let's just cut our losses rather than invest all this again. We'll just take a $50 million loss. Take 30 million and do it. It's what they did with Batgirl. It's what they did with the Scoob sequel. Apparently, it should be illegal. This should be illegal. I don't know why. It's your property. I get it. You can do what you want with it. I get it. It's your money. I get it. But you said in a legal filing that you were going to explore selling this thing. You told this to your investors when you had no intention of doing so. one might say you're lying to your investors, and I don't own stock in Warner Brothers, but if I did, I'd be pissed. Because if anything, if you're gonna take 30, last time I checked, 40 million is bigger than 30 mil is more than 30 million. And if people are offering you 10 million more than what you would make through the federal government, sell the fucking movie. Okay, and take the
But
take
would
the 10
also
million.
would it make more sense to sit there and say that, let's say Batgirl is a horrible movie, which is
Yeah,
possible.
which is possible.
It does have this feel of that Batwoman TV series for some reason. I don't know why, but it does have that feel to it. It might
Yes.
not, who knows? But let's sit there and say that it's just god awful and horrible. Wouldn't it make more sense to just go, Netflix, you do it? Because the thing is, you don't have to market it. Netflix will do the marketing for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Go on a streaming service, and then I'll go to the next streaming service and go to the next streaming service. And after about 5 to 10 years, you'll probably make your money easily.
My guess is,
and because you're making your money, because the thing is, what we know about bad movies, let's take Howard the Duck. It's probably one of the worst movies, but it has a fucking fantastic fan base. It still makes money, even though it's a bad movie.
it's the duck tits. It's the duck tits. You watch the movie, you see the duck tits, and
People
they
love
haunt
it.
you for the rest of your life.
But there are people out there who still love it. There are people that off the Blu-ray. There are people out there. I think they're coming out with a Criterion or something like that version of it.
There is not a Criterion. There is a 4K. I do own the Blu-ray.
So obviously, the Blu-ray sold so well that there's time for a 4K. And this is a bad movie. And I mean, whether you like it or not, is besides the point. But there's a market for Flash Gordon. Is one of the worst movies ever, but a lot of people love it.
Oh God, yes.
I
love a good bad movie. I tell everybody.
Yeah, and I have a lot of movies that are quite bad. That Beyond the Valley of Dolls is one of my all-time favorite movies. I love it. I've seen it so many times. I have the Blu-ray. I have the soundtrack album. I have a T-shirt if it was out, but there isn't. Every time there's something coming out with, from one of the characters from it, whether it's Erica Gavin or Michael Blodgett, or I have to read it. Any interview, I have to look at it, and I love it. And the thing is, and it does sell well. On the DVD so well, the Blu-ray did extremely well. I mean, so there is a market for this stuff. So I don't understand why you're cutting your dick off, I guess is what the thing is, because it's like, what is going on at Warner that they don't realize this? Because honestly, not everything has to be a mega hit. I mean, it's not a single. It's not a music single where it has to hit number one as soon as it comes out of the gate. It's a film, and we've all know through the course of 100 years of filmmaking that there are films that freaking bomb that are well beloved today that are making more money today than they ever did. And there's money that were being big blockbusters that are not exactly turning the money through today. E.T. E.T. was great at time. Watch it again. It's like, God, this has got off. Dirty Dancing, great at the time. Look at it now.
It's a product of its era. It's just a product of its era. And
bad movie making, that's what it is.
In the case of Zaslav, I think what happened was a couple of months ago, it came out that he was going to delete this movie. And that's the thing. It's not just shelving the movie. It's deleting it now because it's content and it's all digital. So it's going to be deleted off a hard drive and just be forgotten. But I think what happened was he wanted to get rid of this movie and everybody called him out on it. He got embarrassed publicly by the media. So they said, oh, we'll look into selling it. Let the heat die off for a little while. And then fuck it, we're deleting it. I'm never going to watch this piece of this, in his eyes, this piece of shit. I'll never watch it. I don't care. And because he got egg on his face. And so I think that's what happened, because he seems like a vindictive prick. I don't know him personally, but every interview I've seen, every logical statement illogical statement he's made makes him come off like, no, you sound like you're a prick who just is in this to raid companies and sell off their assets. So hey, corporate America, that's what it is.
But the thing is, there might be some people in this movie that you'll be watching something else that they've done. Jake Johnson, I like him in The New Girl, and because I like him in The New Girl, I looked him up on Wikipedia and I started watching other stuff that he's done. because of that. And
Yeah.
he's done some shit and he's done some great stuff. You know, he's done some things where he's only in it for 5 minutes. So I watched a whole bad movie just to see 5 minutes of him. But and there are other actors that I do that with. It's like, I'll see them on something. It's like, oh, they look good. Oh, and I'll look up Wikipedia. It's like, oh, look, they've done this. So I'll start watching other things they did because I start liking them, which means it's money in their pocket. Whenever I'm streaming it or I'm renting for 369 for a high definition copy or whatever, or buy a disc or whatever it may be. But that's what people do nowadays. Thing is they watch something, go on Wikipedia, what this person's done. Okay, I'm gonna watch something else that they've done. And it makes them money at the end of the day. And yeah, it might not be instant gratification of making all the big bucks on a freaking weekend, but within a year or two, you probably will make your monies back and probably will turn a profit. Especially if you sell it to us. I said before, I know a big budget for films at the moment seems to be marketing anyway, where there's film posters and film trailers, so on and so forth, and all over the place. But if you sell it to a streaming service, they'll market it for you, and people catch it that way. I mean, look at The Haunt. The Haunt did shitty business, and now it's the #1 movie on freaking Netflix, and it's an okay movie, but
I still do not understand the logic of the #1 movie on Netflix. I get it, everybody's watching it, but the choices that are selected each week, I see it pop up on my Microsoft feed, and I'm just like, what the fuck? That really? That's #1? Just some forgotten movie from 2007 or some action movie that I remember when it came out. I would say like a couple of weeks ago, Priest or was it Legion? Some crappy religious action movie with Dennis Quaid and not Jude Law. Is it Jude Law? I always get the guy who plays Vision. Whatever his name is. I always get Jude Law and him confused. But Paul Bettany. Paul Bettany is he plays I think Gabriel the Fallen Angel. Yeah, and I remember seeing it. In theaters and then like completely forgetting about it. And then like a month ago, the #1 movie on Netflix, this forgotten religious. What the fuck are people watching? Did a collective hysteria?
I don't understand. You know what I think it is because when you're sitting at home, I mean, I watched The Haunt because it's #1. I'll give it a shot. And the thing is, once you start watching, this is about The Haunt. That's quite funny. Is that I saw this movie before, didn't realize it until I was watching it again because I actually seen this. but it was on. And the thing is, I was on. I was, I think I was sending some emails out and watching it situation. And it's like, because that's, and I mean, it's okay. I mean, there's a lot better films out there and there's a lot worse films out there. So, so I can't, I'm not going to tear it to pieces because it's not god awful, but it's not the best thing I've ever seen. But I think when, especially with horror films anyway, and with action films, they're always going to hit #1 on a streaming service because let's face it, when it comes to a drama or something a bit more, let's take the excellent one with Leonard Bernstein out there.
Oh, Maestro. Okay, yeah.
Maestro. Now that's an excellent film. I haven't watched it yet. I am going to watch it, but I do put this off because I know that I want to be in the right frame of mind to watch this. But if it's a horror, action, or superhero movie, I could just put that on in the background and I can watch it, and I can either be doing other stuff or I'll just sit there and lay on the sofa half comatose and I'll watch it.
No, I'm the same way. It's just something you could just easily digest, put it on the background, look up occasionally, continue your work, and then
and that's what Warner could be doing with Batgirl, Scoob, and
Acme
very easily.
But for whatever reason, they said, no, we'll just take our $30 million. We'll take 30 million here, 30 million here, 30 million here, 30 million here. And they just start writing off these projects. This one, I don't know. This one, I think, is the last one because it seems like a lot of people are Batgirl was one thing, maybe because it looked like crap. And they did need to work on it. This movie is apparently done. Done. No more work needs to go into it, and is getting great reviews and great scores through test audiences.
There might be another reason why this is happening. If they're at a total loss and they're recouping a loss year after year,
yeah,
Is it because they're getting ready to sell up and be owned by a bigger conglomerate?
That is the thought. So that's the reason why a lot of people think Zaslav was brought in, because that's kind of his specialty.
So does Disney want them? Because that way Disney could have Fox and Warner.
Disney is in the midst of a hostile takeover right now, so they're dealing with their own shit. This Nelson Peltz and Elon Musk, they're teaming up to try to get investors and they keep buying up lots of stock so that they can do a
Disney's downfall
takeover.
is going too far down that PC thing, which I think, as I said before, PCism is an excellent tool if it's not used where you're pointing and throwing your fist at people. You got to do it a Twilight Zone way. You can stick it in your movies and just have it there, and people will get figure it out.
Yeah.
As soon as you yell at anyone about anything, people's minds shut off, and that's what happens. Situation. But if you put it in there subliminally, people will get your message. So whatever message you want to put in any movie, just do it subliminally, and trust me, people will pick up on it.
Well, I mean, from what I understand with Warner Brothers, when they were originally owned by AT&T, because AT&T owned them, and they offloaded a lot of their debt onto Warner Brothers, and then sold Warner Brothers. Okay. And then when Warner Brothers merged with Discovery, they now have all this DirecTV, AT&T debt that's been carried over. So there's so much in the hole that I want to say they were banking on The Flash being a box office hit. And the reason why they were hyping it so much is because they needed that movie to be a hit so that they would have a marketing budget for this year for their movies, because they invested pretty much a good chunk of this year's marketing budget into The Flash because the pandemic wiped them out so much. Thankfully, Barbie hit, so that gave them something, but The Flash and everything else is really hurting them. And Dune not coming out till getting delayed till this year, definitely hurt their bottom line.
Dune wasn't a huge success. It made better on the streaming service where it kind of started recuperating the interest again, but I don't think it did very well at the cinema, did it?
It did better than expected because of the pandemic situation. Okay. Because it did a lot better, and a lot of people are very hyped for it. Either that or they're just very horny for those popcorn containers. I don't know. Have you seen those?
Which ones?
The popcorn containers, the Dune popcorn buckets.
No.
It's got the giant worm in it with the teeth as so you stick your hand through the worm. To say it's very Fleshlight-esque.
Okay. So they're going for the marketing.
I want to say Saturday Night Live even did a joke about it, saying that people want to fuck their popcorn bucket or something like that. It's very ridiculous. You see it?
Well, I mean, I watched the original Dune. I mean, not the David Lynch Dune, but I saw that. It was okay.
I thought it was fine. I didn't understand the hype.
A lot. Yes.
Yes, mine too.
could I done with an hour and a half of it cut out? Yeah.
At least 45 minutes to an hour for me, but yeah, I'm with you.
But am I super psyched for the second installment? No, but if it's on a streaming service, I probably will watch it. I don't know if I'll go to the movie theaters and see it, because I don't know if it warrants me to spend X amount of money going to the cinema unless I go to an afternoon half-cut performance of it. I don't want to be rude here, but I mean, cinema tickets are at a price at the moment where it's like going to the theater. I love going to the theater, but I just won't go see everything because money is very tight with everyone at the moment. So if I'm going to spend money going to the movie theaters, I gotta make sure I no longer have the luxury of spending money at the movie theaters for a movie that could be horrible.
Yeah.
I want something good to excellent.
You're taking time and you're taking too much money at this point. Every time I go walk through those doors. So I need to make sure I don't need to know the movie, don't need to know every detail, but I need to know, is this gonna be good? Or is this gonna be something where I'm gonna be regretting watching this and wasting my time. Now, to be fair, I watch plenty of movies all the time that I know going in are a waste of time, and I have a lot of fun doing so. But at the same time, you got to be in the right mood for it. And if I'm going in blind, it's not going to work.
I mean, I have so far the movies that I've seen most hyped, I have been the most flabbergasted with. And I watched the Barbie movie, for instance. I was hoping for Barbie from Toy Story Barbie than the Barbie I got. I wanted kind of a sassy kind of Barbie, and I kind of got this. I don't know. I
got Malibu Barbie.
Well, I didn't find it very enjoyable. I mean, I wanted it to be funny. I kind of, I wanted to be Barbie like the Brady Bunch movie.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Where you got Barbie in the real world.
Well, you kind of got that. Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit more. You kind of
got that without the.
You got it with Gosling. You got it more.
The Brady Bunch movie's done in 90 minutes. And it gets this message across, and you're laughing and everything like this, and you walk out of there and you're really enjoying it. Even the Very Brady sequel, which didn't do as well, you still had fun with it. This one, I think they could have got. I believe in the moral messaging that they're trying to portray in it, but I don't think it need to be hammered over and over with me, because I do believe what they're saying is true. Yeah. But at the same time, it was an hour and 50 minutes of sermoning and the fun was kind of gone out of it. The Kens were boring. And I think her performance is excellent. Don't get me wrong. I thought her. Oh, yeah. I do kind of wonder when I remember watching it and texting Vicky, probably, which is the wrong person to text. I go, when was there a paraplegic Barbie?
There are Barbies of every type, Keith, every shape, size, creed,
and that's
orientation.
Fine as well. I mean, I don't have a problem with that, but I don't know. I kind of just wanted, like, she's
anyone
Barbie.
Could be Barbie, and Barbie can be anyone.
Yeah, but I don't think that's the. I mean, if we look at the Barbie brand, I mean, she's a dim-witted model, basically. And trying to make her this intellectual property. I mean, I think it with a different director's hand at it, like Betty Thomas or some of that ilk, I think we would have something a lot more fun and a lot more enjoyable. And this is nothing to take away from the performances. I think the performances are all okay. I don't think,
or Greta Gerwig's direction. I didn't have an issue with her direction. I thought that
maybe it's the script. I just didn't.
Maybe
I wanted to watch something that was just really fun and funny.
I don't know. The camp of the beach, the big beach fight at the end and all that stuff. When it was starting to lose me, it got me back numerous times in the movie. The 2001 reference in the beginning killed me. Helen Mirren as the narrator, when she chimes in to just say, no, to people, if you're gonna cast this line isn't gonna work if you cast Margot Robbie. I thought that was one of the best fourth wall breaks in a movie I've seen in years. It had
great nuggets in it. I agree with that.
Yeah, it did. I kind of went with you. Just as a whole, it didn't do it.
It kind of reminded me of Earth Girls Are Easy.
It had some. I had Jones watching that not that long ago, and so I've seen parts of that recently. I kind of feel that's a harsh judgment. Well, I can see what you're saying.
What I meant by that is that as a whole movie, it falls flat, but there are some really neat, fun chestnuts in it.
Okay, I get what you're saying.
That gives it a bit more fun. But as a whole movie, it just.
That movie's just.
I don't know. I mean, maybe it should have been like a half-hour TV show or an hour TV show, maybe. But for whatever reason, there are parts in that where you're kind of going, "Get on with it" situation, and then something funny happens, and then it's like, "Get on with it."
Okay. What was it? 2 hours 15 or something like that, or 2 hours, or it was. Yeah, it was a little too long.
I think Ryan Gosling was wrongly cast in a weird way. I don't know why.
I don't know. I love him.
I love him.
He's perfect in the role. I think he's perfect as it because I
love him, but
there's something about him. He's got this. He has amazing comedic timing. Maybe because he was a Mouseketeer, he was a Mouseketeer or a Disney kid or whatever.
Yeah,
but he's been in the business forever, and he just has that timing, and he knows how to play these goofy characters so well, but everyone's used to him being the brooding guy, the dude from Drive or the dude from the Notebook or is something like that. Always the brooding guy. That when he play, like I want to see this movie with him as the stuntman. It looks hilarious, mainly because I know he could poke fun and just or the movie with the Shane Black movie that he did, the other guy or the Nice Guys. That movie is hilarious. So he can tap if he taps into that. He could have a whole new career ahead of him where he'll just be doing great comedies for the next 5 years.
I mean, I love Ryan Gosling. I think the only thing that, and not it wasn't his acting. I think it's the blonde wig that didn't quite suit him.
Okay, I can see that.
And he done something weird to his body when he worked out. Because I was looking at him like going, if he had the body that he had in what's the one where with Emma Stone?
Oh, the Notebook? Or no, the La La Land?
No, he did one. He did one where basically he's dating her, and he's like the perfect man, and he's got his shirt off, and it's a romantic comedy kind of movie.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
Julianne Moore might be in it.
It's like a Love Actually type movie. It's not Love Actually, but it's like a Love Actually. I forget the type of. It's one of those type rom-coms.
Yeah.
I know the one you're talking about, but yeah.
But I don't know what they did, how he jacked his body, but it kind of looked a little bit more. It looked kind of, but then again, it could all be post-production as well. Maybe.
Also, I mean, he's getting older, so maybe the means of doing getting the muscles aren't as natural as they once were.
Yeah. But I mean, I just kind of wish that they probably didn't. I think maybe they could not taken themselves so seriously. I think that's probably was. I was looking for just a really fun a riot movie, and I kind of got a laugh every 15 to 20 minutes at that.
Okay.
So
that's fair.
I mean, it'd be interesting to see what happens when it, now that it's got for, some Oscars. Crazy Stupid Love is the one I'm thinking of.
Crazy Stupid Love. Okay, yeah, I remember that one. Steve Carell was in it, I think, and a few other people, yeah.
Julianne Moore and Kevin Bacon and Marissa Tomei. So that's the one I was thinking of. And and then you look at him there, and that kind of that character that he played in that would have suited the Ken probably a little bit better as far as looks go. And I really think that by me a brown-haired Ken would probably suited than a blonde-haired Ken. He's not a good blonde.
Well, I think he was Beach Ken. So he's got the blonde beach do and the surfboard. So yeah, I got you.
I didn't realize there's a lot of different ethnic Kens either. So I thought I was a bit surprised by that. I don't know much about Barbie world, but I just remember my sister's Barbie, and basically, yeah.
It was whenever I was a kid going to Toys R Us, it was always once I reached Barbie, I went too far and I had to go one aisle back to go to my action figures. Yeah. So, but I always remember, I was like, oh, there's like 600 different Barbies and all that, all different jobs and everything. So.
I guess what I kind of wanted in the Barbie movie is it would have been nice to have some crossover. Like G.I. Joe show up or something stupid like that. And they could have G.I. Joe as the real masochistic, not the masochistic, but the misogynistic. Just happened, it would have worked really funny.
So apparently, yeah, G.I. Joe is part of the Hasbro verse, which is now in the newest Transformers movie. The newest Transformer movie ends with a post-credit scene where we wanted you to join up. Here's my card. And you look at the card and it says G.I. Joe. So they're going to be teaming those two up and eventually bringing in Mask and Power Rangers into the whole world.
Transformer movies, I'm surprised that they're still going. They're still as popular. So
I have yet to see Bumblebee. Everyone tells me it's amazing, and I've heard that the last one is really good. It seems like now that Michael Bay is away from it, they've actually kind of captured some of the magic of the 80s. So that's good. I'm happy for it.
I saw the last one. It's just like a prequel.
Yeah.
And it does have like a Transformer King Kong type character in it.
Yeah, they were doing Beast Wars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
The last two, the Dino Wars and the Beast Wars, we're getting to the point where I don't remember them being in the cartoons, but I do remember the cartoon or the commercials that sold me the toys. I had already moved past the show at that point, but I'm like, okay, Beast Wars, that's how they keep reinventing the wheel.
I mean, the reason why I watch the Transformer movies, and this is totally off the cuff, but there's a show on Netflix about autistic people finding love.
Okay. I've heard of this.
It's excellent. I mean, the thing is, I'm not, these people and they're trying to find love, and you really warm to them, and all the autistic people in this series and are really into the Transformer movies. Is like, and there's this one guy finds this girl and they start dating, and they're both into Transformers. So through their whole interaction to talk about Transformers, like, so after that I was like, oh, I need to go watch these Transformer movies. and I enjoy. I haven't seen Bumblebee yet, but I did see it because I remember the two Megan Fox ones, and I watched those back in the day. So, and I didn't realize there's so many of them. I didn't realize they were still going because they kind of fell off my radar. So
I saw the first one. It was kind of like a cultural event. It felt like, because everyone's childhood came back. The second one I never bothered with, and then once I heard that the writer strike was going on, and Michael Bay rewrote the entire movie himself in order to get through it. But he did it from basically looking at the first movie and just taking the script and changing locations and spots. So it's basically the same movie all over again. And it's a fucking...
Because Shea is not in the third one, is he?
The third one, Megan Fox doesn't come back.
Well, she had her problems with her Twitter.
She had her problems. Well, she had her problems with Michael Bay because he was basically saying, like, yeah, they were getting in their pissing match with everything that happened on the second one. The third one, I had to see because they filmed it in Chicago, and it was one of the first. And it was one of the first times that we got the whole Michael Bay theatrical experience in Chicago. So it was such a big deal. They're blowing up all this stuff, cars, skyscrapers, they're putting all that stuff. So we're like, all right. And once we heard the entire last hour was going to be the battle for Chicago, we're like, all right, biggest screen we can, let's check this out. And the movie sucked, but that last hour was fun if you're a Chicagoan. I don't know how it is to people not from Chicago, but if you're a Chicagoan, it's fun. I didn't bother with the fourth one. I just remember there was something about, like, somebody had a business card with, like, the law as it related to statutory rape or something. That's the only thing I remember that I remember coming out of that movie was like the dude who got busted from what the hell, Silicon Valley. TJ, that doesn't have a career anymore. He was dating Mark Wahlberg's daughter, and she was 17, and he was in his 20s, and he held up a card or something like that and said, well, technically based on a thing or something like that. That's the only thing I've heard about this movie that I can remember. And I'm like, that is the creepiest fucking thing. Why would we bring this up? And it's like, why would you bring that up in a movie?
And where was Wahlberg and his family behind all of them? I'm surprised he didn't get the whole...
I think at that point the Transformers started attacking or something. Like I said, I never bothered with the fourth. I just remember that being a relevant plot point in the movie. It was the fact that this one character wanted to fuck Mark Wahlberg's underage daughter. And then they did Bumblebee, which I never saw. And there might have been one more in between.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, Bumblebee's Sky is a broadcasting system, cable system here that is no longer cable. It's all done through Wi-Fi now into your Sky television. And they gave me Bumblebee for free, which I haven't watched it yet. So back in the day. So I mean, I probably, if I get time, I'll try to watch it before I fly out because I'm not going to be with Sky once I leave. So, but the last one was okay. It was, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Jumanji with The Rock. Those two films better, but I still it was okay.
I've still yet to watch those. They look fun. They look like a lot of fun.
I highly recommend it. If you're into computer games, highly recommend it.
The Rock, when he's doing movies like that, like The Rundown, where they're a little bit more tongue in cheek, they're fun. When he tries to do a little too serious with the action, that's when you're gonna have a bad time.
Well, I think it's important that if you're an actor, you should know what your limitations are. So, I mean,
he's learning.
There are a lot of actors that are better off in action roles. I'm not saying that makes them better. But then again, there are a lot of serious actors I don't want to see in an action film.
His next movie is going to be a real test for him. It's not the Safdie brothers, but one of the Safdies, I think Benny, is directing him in The Smashing Machine, the story of the well-known mixed martial artist who was major abuser of steroids and whatnot. There's a great HBO documentary about him. I don't want to misname him. I keep wanting to say it's one fighter and it's a completely different fighter. But it's going to be a interesting tale for him because of A, his size, B, Mark Kerr, Mark the Hammer Kerr, the Smashing Machine, and this dude was huge and died way too young. So it's going to be an interesting test to see his acting range on that one, especially with a director like Safdie. So
just as long as he doesn't have to emote too much emotion, he'll be fine.
What are you talking about, man? He's got that eyebrow. It's all the eyebrows.
Well, it's a bit like watching San Andreas. It's fine until he has to show concern of his daughter who almost dies.
the one movie I'll always go back to is Be Cool. When he was holding his own in the scenes with Travolta and Uma Thurman and all those, and he was stealing the scenes from what the fuck, Vince Vaughn. And that it's honestly, if you haven't seen Be Cool, check out Be Cool. It's a really underrated sequel that probably came out 15 years way too late. A sequel to Get Shorty. Chili Palmer goes into the music business instead of the film business and deals with all the eccentric characters throughout. And the whole movie was marketed around he gets to share another dance with Uma Thurman. But they drag in Steven Tyler. They drag in a few rock stars, and The Rock plays a bodyguard to Vince Vaughn, who thinks he's black and acts and is a rap producer and speaks with an accent that would probably get him canceled now. And The Rock is playing a gay bodyguard, and everyone was just like, "Oh, you're playing a gay role? Are you concerned?" He's like, "No, one of my biggest influences in my life was Pat Patterson, a gay wrestler," and kind of endeared him to Hollywood as he showed. Oh, wait, no, you're actually not a homophobic meathead jock. You're actually a caring, sweet individual who could take direction and actually knows what he's doing. So from there, he actually started getting decent roles.
But then again, if he's in a movie with John Travolta's not very good with the emotions either.
He's good at playing Chili Palmer. He's good at playing the coolest guy in the room.
Yeah, he's quite emotionless, really, or he can do a little bit of humor. Whether it's Saturday Night, even like Saturday Night Fever. Saturday Night Fever, when it gets really bad, there should be some sadness there. There isn't.
Oh God, no. There's no remorse.
And the most remorse that character should ever feel is staying alive, but that's another story.
Tony Manera and Chili Palmer, they don't exactly have much that they look back on. They're very forward-thinking individuals, it seems like.
Well, if you look at John Travolta's career, where he doesn't have to display a wide range of emotions, they're always been his biggest hits. Anywhere where he has to deal with large emotions, whether it's moment by moment, or where he's playing Michael the Archangel, or anything like that, or he has to feel loss.
Yeah.
And when he has to feel sadness, that's when that's where he tends to falter a bit. And The Rock he's quite good at being cocky, and he's quite good at giving us sentimental speeches every once in a while, but when it gets to where a tear needs to fall, unfortunately it doesn't really fit into his toy box of emotions to play with.
I think that's why I'm more curious than ever to see him being directed by Safdie, because he manages to push people out of their comfort zone in such a way that if it wasn't for him, I don't think Robert Pattinson would have been taken as seriously. I think what he showed in Good Times, it kind of broke the vampire mold. I knew he was a good actor. It's one of those things where that there's something underneath the surface, but when he got pushed to that limit in Good Times. You got to see, holy shit, there's something special here. And
I think when you get with some of these actors who tend to play to their strength and never go beyond that, I think you need a strong director to push people, but they're gonna have, that director's got to be strong enough to control them, because as we've seen, there have been a couple directors who were able to do that with Robin Williams and got 1 hour photo insomnia and got him out of those odd little voices that would appear all of a sudden out of nowhere in the toolbox. And when they were able to not make sure that he did not do that, World According to Garp is another one that director did very well, but that was his first movie, so I don't think he realized that, you know, he didn't have to start playing to a template. Because, you know, but when you get a director who's able to do that, you'll get some, you know, you will get fantastic. I mean, my only problem with like Robin Williams' career is Good Morning Vietnam. He's excellent in it, but there's a lot of Robin Williams isms in there that kind of throw me out of him a little bit. But it does work within that frame. Dead Poet Society is the one that I can't get into, because you're watching it and all of a sudden he starts doing a John Wayne impersonation, and you're like,
yeah,
you just knocked me out of this movie now.
As far as Good Morning Vietnam, I think that was all for the trailer. That was all just to sell the movie, because that's what the whole movie was marketed around, was Robin Williams as a DJ doing it. Because you can't really, because the story itself, I love Good Morning Vietnam, but the story itself is it worked. It's not a marketable movie, especially when post-Vietnam movies, or movies told post-Vietnam, were always about, that worked, were always about an American going back to Vietnam to either free POWs or kill the Vietnamese. It was all the post-war mentality, and it was Rambos and stuff like that, or action flicks. So when you have this actual good Barry Levinson drama with about a DJ being come in to boost the amazing film, but a DJ coming in to boost the morale of troops, and he's constantly dealing with all the bureaucracy and the red tape, and just says, "Fuck it, I'm telling what really happened." It's a brilliant movie. I want to say Man of the Year. That's a forgotten one too. It's another Barry Levinson vehicle. Barry Levinson's able to capture, or at least calm him down enough. You're always going to have Robin, but I think Barry, because in that it was supposed to be he's basically playing Jon Stewart. He's hosting essentially what is the Daily Show, or a version of it. Originally, I heard it was supposed to be Howard Stern, or Howard Stern always says it was supposed to be him. Howard Stern says a lot. I don't know how Howard Stern.
We've all seen Private Parts based on his life. So
yeah. Howard Stern says a lot of stuff. He also says he's playing Doctor Doom in the Marvel universe. So, for all I know, the man just talks out of his ass. But he claims, and this is of all the things that he said, I'm like, actually, I could see that. There was probably a chance where I could see him playing it, and maybe that fell through. And so Barry said, "Well, I can get Robin." Because it is a very un-Robin movie, and it's dealing with like a voting machine. It's actually kind of relevant. It's dealing with tampering with voting machines and a celebrity getting elected president. It's a very neither here nor there.
Far off off in the world, really, is it?
Yeah, no, it's just
more like science fact than science fiction.
Just saying, people. It's just a weird coincidence. Art imitating
life.
Brian
Levinson, I mean, I think what makes Good Morning Vietnam an excellent movie is that because when he's on the radio, we get his Robin Williams-isms. When he's not on the radio and playing playing a character that's not on, when he's away from the radio station, then you get a real character. And I thought that's what makes that movie excellent.
He's 120. I'd say he's at 110 on the radio. He's 30% Robin throughout the movie. You're always going to have a little bit of an undertone of Robin. He's going to be making jokes, or him and Forrest Whitaker are fucking great together. Just their interplay in the trucks, and just him playing off him, just very, very, very uptight, very, I love your stuff, and then just Robin going nuts, joking. Robert Wool too. He's great in that. It's one of the few Robert Wool movies where I'm just like not fully annoyed the entire time. And even then, he's playing a character who's incredibly annoying. So it works.
I mean, that movie, it's one of those movies that's forgotten about, considering what a huge hit it was at the time.
Yeah,
It was it was up for Oscars as well, I believe. It was the soundtrack outsold. I mean, I remember working in a record store and everyone had to buy the Good Morning Vietnam soundtrack.
Beach
But kind of
Boys,
weird,
Louis
it's kind of
Armstrong.
forgotten about, which is kind of sad.
It's one of those things where he went back doing more comedies. It's weird. I'm finding a lot of weird 80s movies that I've never heard of that star Robin Williams and Robin Williams and Sean Connery possibly and stuff like that I've never even heard of.
Hudson.
Well, I know Moscow on the Hudson and things like that. Yeah. And he was doing Awakenings. There was a time and Dead Poet
Penny
Society.
Marshall did a good job of directing him on the Awakenings as well, because that kind of took a lot of the.
I think of everyone, Levinson got him the best. I just actually found my old copy of Toys, and I was revisiting that recently. I go through it once a year. And then of course, I mean, like Popeye.
Christopher Nolan, I think, worked well with him as well.
Nolan did well. Nolan has this way with his actors where he can just get you to just breaks you down to your emotional core of your character. This is all you need. And he was so chilling in Insomnia. He really is. And by the time that he shows up in the movie, you completely forget, oh yeah, Robin Williams is in this. Because I mean, you're so sucked into the movie and the performance that Pacino's given. And then, yeah, he is just a sick puppy in that one. But yeah, that 1 Hour Photo, some of his movies that his straight to video fare later in his career is surprisingly decent. I mean,
he always gave a good performance, but I also think that for me, he always shined when he wasn't doing the William. I mean, saying that I love Mrs. Doubtfire, and I like the one. I mean, I do like when it calls for it. The only time I didn't appreciate it when it didn't call for it and they were slipped in there. It's like, ooh, it would just take me out of character a little bit.
That honestly, I think. I mean, again. And this is just my speculation. I think that contributed to a lot of the depression. I mean, the man had Louis body, but I think that the man suffered from a lot of depression from the fact that he couldn't not be Robin Williams. And the fact that maybe he was being asked to slip it into things.
Isn't that what most comedians suffer from is depression, which is weird?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're living out of suitcase. You're on the road. You're
Richard
all dealing, grappling with
Eddie Murphy.
Grappling with.
He suffers from a lot of depression as well.
God, yeah. You're putting your insecurities and all your out there on stage and making light of them for the world to see. I mean,
we know Roseanne Barr has her problems, so
yeah.
So it's kind of weird that all these comedians. I mean, I have yet to. I mean, even like Laurel and Hardy or Abbott and Costello and all the old classic ones. I have yet to hear of a comedian that doesn't suffer some kind of psychosis with depression.
Well, it's the sad clown. Everybody, you're always making everybody else laugh. Nobody thinks about, no one's trying to make you laugh. No one cares about the person making them laugh.
And I guess you have to make comedy out of your life, and you can't make comedy if your life is happy and super and wonderful.
I mean, Richard Pryor's greatest album is talking about how he nearly burnt himself alive while smoking crack on New Year's Eve and getting into fights with his wife. By the way, amazing album. My dad passed it to me via vinyl, and I've been listening to it every once in a while. It is one of those things you just listen to this, you're like, this would never work today. We'd all think about the whole crowd in stitches, every word, doesn't matter. Yeah, smoking crack, lighting yourself on fire, beating up your wife, attacking her car with a golf club, everything. Yeah, no, it's horrifying now, but then the whole room in stitches. It's comedy through tragedy. If you gotta, I think
the worst part about it is all that stuff that's happened to him. It's happened to other celebrities. Not all of it, but the golf club, the golf player. Okay, this person, this other thing, the beating of the wife happened to this other celebrity. So he did it all.
It's really the trifecta that's the funny part. Nothing is funny alone. Like if you bring them all together, okay, this is just getting absurd now.
Well, I think what comedians had that they kind of don't really have today is if you look at Richard Pryor, even Bill Cosby, per se. Though his stuff doesn't seem as funny now that we now know things, but
oh no,
Robin Williams, Eddie Murphy, is that they would come on stage, and for an hour and a half, Chris Rock has it as well. They'll come on stage and they tell you a story.
Yes.
And it's a funny story. It's a story based on truth, their facts. But they weaved you into this. So by the time you finish, you kind of, Whoopi Goldberg, when you see her live Broadway show,
she's doing Mams Mabley and whatnot. Yeah, I know that she.
Where she plays the 4 different characters.
Yeah,
and she just changes. She doesn't even change anything; just changes her body and does whatever. And then she did the reunion. If anyone out there buy the DVD of this, this is a mastermind. It kind of, you look at her now going, what happened? This could have been, she's had a good career. I'm not taking anything away from her, but when you take The Color Purple and you take her stand-up stuff that she started off with that led to The Color Purple, and then where she's gone on from there, it's gone in a different direction than I thought it was. It doesn't mean it's a bad direction. I just kind of would love to see more of that than what we've had gotten over the last 30 years situation. But the way that they could weave a storyline, so because now when I do watch comedy, the odd comedy person on stage, and and there's a lot of complaining about whatever their politics may be, and that's fair and fine. I don't mind that. But I'm not, I'm not being told this story. I'm being told jokes.
Yeah.
I'm not being led through this story scenario with, this humorous story with a little bit of pathos in it to sit there and tug at your heart just a little bit at the same time. So,
yeah.
Well, getting back to Batman, which we've totally gone off place. What was your favorite episode of this block?
Of the 4, it's a difficult choice, and I didn't think it would be, because usually when I see Harley Quinn centric episodes, and I'd go for that. But Avatar was fascinating. It kind of crossed the movie monster aspect, Ra's al Ghul. Yeah, I love the relationship with Talia and Bruce. I love seeing that. The Terrible Trio got to see a interesting side, the more debutante side of Bruce with the high society, and seeing how they interact, and just seeing that they are just as ambitious. The Stepford Wives esque Harley Quinn, or excuse me, Poison Ivy episode, and then of course our Harley Quinn centric one. Honestly, this is tough. I'd probably say Avatar. I think that I just love seeing Talia and Bruce together, and whenever I see them together, it gets my brain thinking. I loved also seeing them riding the horses out into the desert. I think that's a cool visual, and yeah, it turned into basically a Universal monster movie at the end with the Lazarus pit and the demon coming out of it. It was very cool. So I'd say that's probably my favorite, with an honorable mention to Harlequinade, just because I love seeing Harley like that. She's a lot of fun. How about you, Keith?
The only complaint I'm going to make here about all 4 of them is this is really Batman and Robin. I'm not saying I need to see more Batman or Robin, but Robin is kind of thrown in here, and he has some this incestuous relationship to help solve the crimes for some reason, but he's not really in these episodes, so I'm not quite sure. So they still feel like they're still part of Batman the Animated Series, and that the Batman and Robin episodes, these are like leftovers. I think they voiced these and stuff like this, and they were being animated when the previous season ended. They're carried over. So,
and from what I was reading in the thing, I think the Terrible Trio is technically the season 4 premiere. I think that. I think, which is weird, because that one had the Batman and Adventures of Batman and Robin intro, but the last one, Harlequinade, had the regular Batman, the first intro. 2 of them had the first intro, and then one. But I want to say in my notes it lists the Terrible Trio as technically the season 4 premiere.
Well, I mean,
one of them is technically his.
Because the thing, as I see it, is like, because I mean, the opening credits are Batman and Robin credits.
Yeah.
But and I'm not saying I need to see more Robin. That's not what I'm saying. But it seemed like, House and Garden, which I'm going to name as my favorite of the episode because I love seeing the pathos of and the emotional range of Poison Ivy and the sadness at the end really kind of captured me. But Robin comes in and he was taught, so he knew he had daughters, so then no more Robin. This one, Robin went to school with them. No more Robin. Like what? And Harlequinade, he doesn't appear at all. No, he does. He appears on the video.
And once he actually, and there's a throwaway joke. He's just like, so what did she do before all this? She was a licensed therapist. Figures. And I want to say there is a movie that came out in the last like 5 or 6 years called Batman and Harley Quinn, and where they revisit this and they do team up. I don't know if it's a sequel to this episode, but there are a lot of callbacks where basically where Harley teams up with Batman and Nightwing. And I want to say Harley Quinn hooks up with Nightwing. I could be mistaken, and maybe this is just like something completely different. Maybe it's the Harley Quinn series. Maybe
there's some flirtation going on.
There's some flirtation, but I want to say that maybe I'm thinking of. I know that she had a relationship with in the Suicide Squad movie, because there's a Suicide Squad Arkham movie that was supposed to be a tie-in to one of the Arkham games, and I know that she sleeps with someone on the team. I want to say the same thing happens with Robin in this movie too, but it's a similar situation to basically hey, we need to bust you out because something happened back in the day, and we need you to be on our team. So,
yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
The House and Garden is probably my favorite, only because we got to see Poison Ivy open more past her environmental issues. Saving the planet. So we got to see her, but she does have wants, even though she might want them on her own time. And I think what captured me most when she got her tear falling, and then she's like talking about the family that she just lost, but then it has a picture of Harley, and then it's like, okay, I quite like that. I thought that little Easter egg was quite good. Harlequinade second for me. I can't think of a bad one in this though. That's pushing it really hard, but yeah, I'm gonna go for House and Garden in this instance. So
that's they're all. That's the thing. I like them all. Hard. It's just it is difficult, and
I know that every week it's getting harder and harder for some reason. I don't know why. So
that's the thing. I remember these episodes getting worse, but I'm like, this is getting more and more difficult to choose between them. I mean, maybe it's just at this point I know what I'm getting, but I'm liking them more and more.
I think when we get Teeny Bopper Robin, and I think it's going to be a bit easier for us.
I'm still dreading it. I know it's coming. I'm dreading it though.
Thank God, I don't think there's that many episodes though, so that's a good thing. Sadly enough. No. Well, this brings us to the end of the Literary License Podcast. Next month, we'll be covering our Batman series. We'll be covering the episodes 2 Out of Joint, Catwalk, Bane, and Baby Doll. And of course, next week, we'll be continuing on our Dark Families movies. We'll be The Return to Oz from 1985 and The Oz of the Great and Powerful from 2013. And our anthologies, head by Joe Randazzo, will be led off by Twilight Zone the movie from 1983 and Night Gallery from 1969, starring a segment directed by Steven Spielberg in one of his first directorial debuts. And of course, Doctor Who will continue with The Celestial Toymaker and the Gunfighters, which aired on the 2nd of April 1966 to the 21st of May 1966. And of course, Book to Screen Once Upon a Time will be mixing our mediums with Who Censored Roger Rabbit, the book by Gary Wolfe, which would lead to the film Who Framed Roger Rabbit from 1988. So it's good night for myself. Good night, Sean.
Good night, everybody.
And we'll see you next week for The Return to Oz and Oz the Great and Powerful.
shopping with a blunt. Running up champagne in my cup. Just a bad girl doing what she wants. In my dream life way. It's the truth I have. Way more options than my grandma had. When a bitch this bad, looking like the patriarchy stock gon' crash. I'm minding my biz, do what I want when I wish. In my house, be my own bitch. Tell 'em I'm marrying rich. Go all out, cookies and cream. Be my suburban dream. Pink nightgown, beauty routine. Make my priority me. I might be child-free chillin', dream fulfilling, finding my identity, release stuck feelings. These are my plans, I got demands. I wear the pants, you can't be mad. So all I ask is men who find my energy threatening. Won't you show a little respect for me? Generational trauma lessening is my destiny. The universe blessing me. You the violence, this is how my legacy begins. I will not be vacuuming your shit, cause I got cool grapes in the dish. In my dream life way. It's the truth I have. Way more options than my grandma had. When a bitch this bad, looking like the patriarchy stock gon' crash. Minding my biz, do what I want when I wish. Be my own biz, tell 'em I'm marrying rich. Cookies and cream, be my suburban dream. Beauty routine.